Chapter 321. You have been recruited. Done. Xianxia clapped his hands with glee. Seeing how casual the other party was, everyone suddenly felt dizzy and an urge to spew blood welled in them. Wasn't he being too eccentric? The teacher guild had explicitly stated that one was not to punish a student physically, yet you had the cheek to beat the other party up so severely. If the teacher guild were to pursue the matter, no one would be able to shoulder the responsibility. Liu Laoxia, you. Mo Hongyi was speechless. He nearly fainted from anger. Teachers aren't allowed to beat students up. Is this fellow for real? It is one thing for you not to know the rules of the master-teacher examination, but you would have at least taken a class before, you would have at least taught some students before. As a 2-star master-teacher examinee, how could you not know these fundamental rules? A teacher was supposed to win over his students by virtue. If the teacher guild were to realize that one had punished a student physically, it is very likely that one's teaching license would be revoked. Beat students up? Who said that I had beaten a student? Xianxia glared at the male student. Did I beat you up? No. I am indebted to teacher. You did it to save me, you did not beat me up. The male student quickly kowtowed as he explained through his now incomplete set of teeth. The crowd was thrown into a frenzy. Brother, can you be any more arrogant? Do you think that we are all blind? All of us personally saw you beat the other party up. It is one thing for you not to admit it, but you even threatened the student. This is truly atrocious and deplorable. They had seen ridiculous people, but they had never seen someone who left them so speechless. HMPH. Flinging his hands, Principal Xia's face steeled. As the principal and a 1-star master teacher, a teacher had beaten up and threatened a student before him. He couldn't simply remain motionless to this matter. Liu Laoxia, punishing a student physically is already a violation of the responsibilities of a teacher. I will report this matter to the teacher guild, so you should prepare yourself for the sanction from the guild. Also, our Qianwu Academy is unwilling to recruit a deplorable and irresponsible teacher like you, so please leave immediately. After which, he pointed to the doors. Sanction? Irresponsible. Xianxia was taken aback. He turned to Principal Xia and asked, "Is this your judgment on the matter?" "That's right." Principal Xia harumphed. "Fine." Xianxia shook his head. "Given your eye of discernment, you still call yourself a 1-star master teacher. Honestly speaking, I would really like to ask, are you blind?" Pu. Did this fellow just insult Principal Xia? The heck? He physically punished a student and insulted a 1-star master teacher. Is this fellow insane? The other teachers' eyeballs were about to pop out from their sockets. This is the principal of Qianwu Academy, a Xianxia realm pinnacle expert. In terms of strength, he is ranked in the top 10 of the academy. Not to mention, he is a 1-star master teacher as well. To say that he is blind. The heck? They had only thought that he was arrogant a moment ago, but now, they realized that he was insane. Otherwise, how could a teacher who came for a public recruitment beat up a student in public and insult a 1-star master teacher? Master teachers were not to be sullied. Just this crime was sufficient to have him killed. The corners of Mo Hongyi's mouth twitched as well. However, he knew that even though Xianxia had an eccentric personality and a vile mouth, he had the capability to back it up. Based on his understanding of the latter, it was impossible for him to be insulting Principal Xia for no good reason. Re-examining the male student's condition, he suddenly froze. This. Meanwhile, Principal Xia was already spurting blood. He was so furious that all of his hairs stood at its end and it felt as though he would erupt at any moment. Liu Laoxia, do you know that you are insulting a master teacher? Suppressing his rage, Principal Xia spat through gritted teeth. If not for his identity, he would have charged up and taught this arrogant fellow a lesson. Insulting a master teacher. Me. Xianxia looked at him with a look of pity. Someone is insulting the identity of a master teacher, but it isn't me. It is you. You. Infuriated, Principal Xie was just about to step forward to teach this conceited brat a lesson when the other party walked up to the male student with his hands behind his back and explained calmly. Blood calamity spider. It is a unique type of savage beast around the size of a human's thumb. It feeds on the blood of living beings and favors dark and cold habitats. It often moves around in the dark and, most importantly, it carries a lethal poison on it. Everyone thought that this fellow was going to say something important, but he talked about an unrelated savage beast instead. Everyone was baffled. Principal Xie came to a halt and his eyebrows furrowed together. He wanted to see what this fellow had up his sleeves. If a cultivator were to fall prey under this spider's poison, he won't die immediately. However, the venom will numb his nerves and cause a change in his personality. He will become violent and an urge to battle with others would overwhelm him. This is because only battle could alleviate the boiling poison in his body and bring him peace. Xianxia continued. There is actually such a savage beast. Is there really such a peculiar poison in the world? Upon hearing the effects of the poison of the blood calamity spider, a conjecture appeared in everyone's mind. However, they didn't dare to confirm it. Rather, their gaze remained fixated on the young man before them. That's right, this male student had fallen prey to this poison and it was already at an extremely severe stage. Thus, he couldn't help but fight with others to alleviate his raging emotions. Did you all realize that even though the movements of his battle techniques were sharp and lethal, there was a trace of redness in his eyes? No matter how many battles a cultivator undergoes, it isn't possible for their fights to affect their mental state and change the color of their eyes. Xianxia surveyed the surroundings. Trace of redness. I noticed it too, but I thought that it was because of his agitation. That's right, I saw it too. I thought that it was because of his unique battle technique. Could it really be because of a lethal poison? How is that possible? If he was poisoned, why couldn't any of us detect it? Recalling the sight they saw when the male student was displaying his battle technique, everyone froze. There was something bizarre about that male student's gaze, but there were some battle techniques which could change one's gaze as well. Thus, they didn't consider such a possibility. Besides, who would have known that there was a poison in the world which could affect a person's mental state and make them aggressive? I wasn't beating him up just now. I was using a unique method to force the poison out of his body. If you don't believe me, you can look at the blood on the floor. Xianxia casually pointed. Following his finger, the crowd saw the blood that flowed out from the apertures of the male student when Liu Laoshi beat him up just a moment ago. To their horror, the blood was thick and black in color. The blood had curdled on the spot and the stones in contact with it corroded, causing a dent to appear. It was an extremely eerie sight. There was really lethal poison. Principal Xie's face turned pale. It was impossible for normal blood to curdle so quickly, even less so, corrode stone. Such a situation would only occur if the blood was harnessing a lethal poison. Which meant to say, there was lethal poison within the male student. And Liu Laoshi wasn't beating him up just now, he was expelling his poison. Usually, one would die within 3 months of falling prey to the blood calamity spider's poison. Judging from his current state, he should only be a month in, so he isn't in any danger. That's also the reason why he was still able to suppress the poison with his cultivation, making it impossible for anyone to notice it. Xianxia turned to Principal Xie and said, even so, despite being the top academy in Qianwu Kingdom, how could you all not know that one of your students had fallen prey to lethal poison? It is out of kindness that I saved him, yet you framed me of beating him up and even threatened to report this to the teacher guild. You're the principal of the academy as well as a 1-star master teacher. How could you fail to see through this much? May I ask? If you aren't blind, what else could it be? Principal Xie's face paled. The black poisoned blood was an extremely clear sign that the male student had been poisoned. However, overwhelmed by rage, Principal Xie actually overlooked the matter. He even bellowed at the other party for beating the male student up. Embarrassed, his face flushed. He wanted to explain, but words evaded him. Liu Laoshi, please calm down. Poison master is an uncommon occupation and very few people have knowledge of it. It's normal for one not to know of it. Sensing the awkwardness of the situation, Mo Hongyi interjected. He was right. Most of the information regarding poison had been sealed by the poison hall, so most people were uninformed about the matter. Furthermore, teachers prided themselves on being righteous. As such, they rarely came into contact with something as vile as poison, so naturally, they would have very limited knowledge on them. Knowing that it was impossible for Xianxia to insult the other party for no good reason, he had re-examined the condition of the male student. When he saw the poison in the blood he spat, he was also thrown into a state of shock. To be able to tell that the other party had been poisoned just through his battle technique, and even solve it. This meant that Xianxia's mastery of poison had most probably reached the level of a grandmaster. 3-star painter, 2-star beast tamer, and pill forging skills exceeding that of a 4-star apothecary. How many hidden capabilities was this fellow hiding up his sleeves? Initially, he had thought that even though the other party was superior in terms of pill forging and teaching, it would just be limited to those. However, after this incident, he realized that the other party was skilled in many other occupations as well, just that he hadn't displayed it before him. Even if you didn't know that it was lethal poison, that student had already said that I am saving him. Yet, you still chose to doubt me. Is this the discerning ability that a 1-star master teacher should have? Oblivious to Mo Hongyi's attempt to alleviate the atmosphere, Xianxia continued. Upon hearing those words, everyone went speechless. The male student did say that you were saving him, but you had just finished beating him up then, not to mention your ferocious glare. No matter who saw this, they would have thought that you were threatening him. Intimidated, he would have no choice but to answer that way. Who would have known that he truly meant it? It's due to my lack of observation. I am truly unworthy of the title of 1-star master teacher. Under Xianxia's intense interrogation, Principal Xie's face paled and he looked as though he had aged a decade. He was supposed to be the one conducting the test for the public recruitment, but little did he know that he himself had failed to notice so many crucial details. All right, there's no need to be depressed. Just continue learning earnestly and don't come to a conclusion recklessly before clarifying the situation. Xianxia shook his hands casually. Everyone staggered. This was the principal of Qianwu Academy. Yet, he was being lectured as though he was a student by a mere ordinary teacher. Everyone was completely speechless, but at the same time, they were also astonished by this Liu Shi's means. Not only did he manage to locate the root of the problems of the two students, something that even Principal Xie overlooked, he was even able to treat the two of them easily. Be it his eye of discernment or his means, it was at an astounding level. If not for them witnessing this sight personally, they would have never believed it to be possible. In an instant, they were all filled with amazement and respect for this young teacher. Just when everyone's gazes were gathered on him, wanting to know how he managed to notice the lethal poison in the male student's body, Liu Shi's majestic aura suddenly dissipated. Like an expectant student waiting for his examination results, he scratched his head awkwardly and asked, "This? So, will I be accepted into the academy?" Of course, you're accepted into the academy." Hearing Xianxia's question, Principal Xie's vision suddenly turned dark, but he hurriedly nodded his head anyway. "If you're not accepted into this academy even with such high-level capabilities, then I would really be unworthy to be the principal of the academy." Chapter 322. Mu Xueqing's countermeasure. Mu Xueqing was a talented student of Qianwu Academy. Despite being only 18 this year, she had already reached Pishua realm with over a dozen acupoints opened up. Given her fame and the bright future laid before her, she should have been happy. Yet, she had been in low spirits recently. This was because her teacher had left the academy. Since the new teacher wasn't here yet, she was left to her own devices and was currently lazing around. Stretching her back, a beautiful curvature which could easily send any man into frenzy appeared. "Senior." At this moment, a youngster walked over. "Meng Dao, what news have you uncovered? Is it reliable?" Upon seeing the approaching person, Mu Xueqing immediately turned to face him with a serious expression etched on her face. "I have looked into the matter, and that master teacher Xianxia is indeed an incredible figure. In fact, based on what I've just found out, he seems to be even more amazing than how you made him out to be. However, I heard that he is in the midst of his 2-star master teacher examination and has to leave the capital for a while." The eyes of the youngster named Meng Dao gleamed in reverence. "Tell me about it." Mu Xueqing's blushed. Last night, when the news of genius Mo Hongyi's records being broken reached her ears, the name of master teacher Xianxia was also brought to her attention. Despite being under 20, he had achieved many outstanding feats, leaving others amazed and frenzied. In fact, he was even already in the midst of taking his 2-star master teacher examination. Even though she heard it directly from an elder in her clan, she still found the matter hard to believe. After confirming the matter several times, she decided that from then onwards, Xianxia would be her #1 idol. Thus, when she arrived at the academy this morning, she immediately told her juniors of this matter, and the news left all of them gasping in amazement as well. The junior before her, Meng Dao, had refused to believe this matter, so she had him check for himself. "I heard that when Xianxia arrived at the capital, he went to the Painter Guild to take the painter examination. Over there, he was met with provocation by the Ji clan's Ji Mo Gongzi, and eventually, he used a savage beast to create a 5th-level painting, earning him the rank of a 3-star painter," Meng Dao said. Initially, he couldn't believe that someone could be more impressive than Mo Hongyi. After all, Mo Hongyi's reputation as the #1 genius of Qianwu Kingdom was already deep-rooted in the capital. However, after looking into the matter, he realized that not only was Xianxia more capable than Mo Hongyi, the gap between them was huge as well. Even after verifying the news personally, he still found it hard to believe. He had to pinch himself to make sure that it wasn't just a dream. Using a savage beast to paint a 5th-level painting. Mu Xueqing clenched her fists tightly. As a genius, she revered other geniuses as well. Although the name of Xianxia was only established the day before, the number of legendary feats he had achieved was overwhelming, leaving her with no other choice but to be awed. "Say, now that our teacher has left, if the academy can get Xianxia to be our replacement teacher, how wonderful will that be?" Even though the news gathered by her junior was identical to what Mu Xueqing had heard last night, she couldn't help but feel another surge of admiration for the young master teacher. "Bring him in. Senior, Xianxia is a figure who is going to become a 2-star master teacher. How can the academy afford to hire him?" Meng Dao was speechless. There were only 3 2-star master teachers in Qianwu Kingdom, and every time they held a lecture, all teachers, including the principal, would attend it. To invite the other party over as their teacher, it was nothing more than a pipe dream. I know it as well, but I can't help but hold such expectations. I really wish that I can listen to his lecture once. Given how talented he is, his lessons must be deep and profound. Perhaps I might even achieve a breakthrough in my cultivation just by listening to one of his lessons," Mu Xueqing said with a dreamy look. "Right. Isn't the academy recruiting teachers today? Are the results out yet?" "There's not much news circulating at the moment, but from what I gathered, there is only a handful of star teachers applying for the position. The rest of them are just some ordinary teachers. I doubt they will be able to teach us anything good." Meng Dao shook his head. He didn't bear much expectations for the new teachers. "That's true." Mu Xueqing nodded as well. If they were good, they would have long been brought into Qianwu Academy. They wouldn't have the need to attend the public recruitment at such a timing. Bad news, bad news. Just when the two of them were discussing the matter of the new teacher, they heard an anxious voice. Then, a lady rushed in with a reddened face. "Calm down, don't panic. What's wrong?" Mu Xueqing frowned. "Didn't I ask you to camp outside the Elder Hall to check out the accepted teachers? Why are you already back? Wait, could it be that the results are already out?" "Yes." Panting, the lady hurriedly nodded her head. "So fast?" Mu Xueqing was taken aback. According to the news, there were over 100 teachers who attended the public recruitment today. By right, it should have taken a significant amount of time to sieve through them. I saw the principal pass the identity tokens of our class over to a young teacher. After taking a few deep breaths, the lady finally managed to catch her breath and she started recounting the situation. "A young teacher. UN. That teacher seems to be in his 20s. Since I was too far away, I didn't manage to hear anything. However, I saw Even now, the lady still found it hard to believe what she saw to be true. You are murdering us with anxiety. What did you see? Mu Xueqing glared at her and hurriedly urged her on. I saw the teacher beating up a freshman to the point the other party was vomiting blood. The lady said. He beat up a freshman to the point the other party was vomiting blood. Mu Xueqing and Meng Dao glanced at one another in horror. A teacher beating up a student? Such violence was unheard of in Qianwu Academy. It's true. I've seen it with my own eyes. This is what I've secretly recorded down previously, look. With a flick of her wrist, the lady produced a record crystal. Infusing Xianxia into it, 2 figures instantly appeared on it. Taking a closer look, a young man was beating up a student. Pang! The student spurted a mouthful of blood, and eventually, he kneeled before the young man. As the scene was recorded from a distance, they were unable to hear the conversation taking place inside the elder hall. Even so, they could clearly see the tragic state of the pummeled student. You said that the principal gave our identity tokens to this fellow. After seeing that sight, Mu Xueqing's face turned ashen. What in the world was going on? How could they hire such an aggressive person to be their teacher? Indeed, I witnessed it myself. Furthermore, the lady uttered nervously before she pausing for a brief moment. After grabbing the tokens, he immediately started walking toward our class. He should be arriving soon. Arriving soon. Mu Xueqing clenched her fists tightly. Doesn't the teacher guild prohibit teachers from getting physical with students? Why would the academy hire this kind of teacher? This. The lady shook her head. I don't know either. Senior, could it be that the academy knew that our class is uncontrollable, so they intentionally found such a teacher to teach us a lesson and beat us into submission? Meng Dao scratched his head. Beat us into submission? Let's see if he has the capability to do so. Mu Xueqing's face darkened. Meng Dao, get everyone to stop cultivating and gather here. All right. Meng Dao nodded and hurriedly left. Soon, slightly more than a dozen students gathered around Mu Xueqing. Senior. UN. I believe that Meng Dao should have told you about what happened earlier. The academy has hired that vile fellow who gets physical with students on a whim to be our teacher. About this issue, what thoughts do you all have? After saying so, Mu Xueqing glanced at the crowd. If he were to become our teacher, our lives will become a living hell. I oppose to it. However, what can we do about it? The academy has assigned him to us, and our identity tokens are already in his hands. Unless we head to the administrative office to request for a teacher switch, there's nothing we can do in this situation. Since the academy has sent him to us, it definitely won't allow us to switch to the other classes. Since it came down to this, let's think of a way to chase him away so that we can get a better teacher here. Even if we can't get a genius like Xianxia, we have to at least have a star teacher. If we were to come under the tutelage of an aggressive fellow like him, our future will be ruined. The crowd harumphed indignantly. Meng Dao had already explained the situation, and he had shown them the recording in the record crystal as well. Every single one of them felt infuriated upon seeing the teacher laying his hands on a student, especially since it was to the point that the student was vomiting blood. Given how brutal he was in treating his students, how could he be worthy of being a teacher? They expected them to become the students of such a person? Dream on. All right. There's no use talking about it. Since the academy has passed our identity tokens to him, we are already his students. We have to find a way to chase him away. Mu Xueqing raised her hand to get the others to calm down. Why don't we intentionally go against him to trip him up? Trip him up? How do you intend to do it? For example, let's refuse to follow all of his instructions. As a teacher, realizing that he is powerless in the class, he would surely leave on his own accord soon. This might be useful against others, but that fellow is an aggressive person. If we were to really disobey his instructions and he were to get physical with us, who would be able to stand against him? This. The group fell silent. Regardless of what plans they had, the main problem was that this new teacher was an aggressive person. If he were to lay his hands on them, given the disparity in their strength, it would be impossible for them to stand up against him. After all, even the strongest person among them, Mu Xueqing, was only at Pishue realm. Given their strength, it was impossible for them to stand against a Tongxian realm cultivator. How about this? If he were to really lay his hands on us, let's record the scene down using a record crystal and find a way to send it to the teacher guild. I don't believe that the guild will ignore such a matter. It is a good idea, but given how that teacher dared to beat up a student before the principal, elders, and so many teachers, he must have connections there. Or perhaps he might even be backed by the academy. If we were to screw this matter up, he might make things worse for us. Indeed. If he were to know that we are plotting his downfall, won't he oppress us even further? The crowd proposed several more plans, but they were all vetoed. Given how their new teacher was able to beat up a student before so many teachers, he must have had the backing of the principal. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to act so brazenly. The idea of recording down the scene was not bad, but if it were to land in his hands before reaching the teacher guild, they would have a tough life ahead of them. They had devised a plan properly so as to solve the problem once and for all. Otherwise, once they were to alarm him, their life would just get worse. What should we do? Senior, do you have any ideas? After racking their brains, they found that they were unable to think of a feasible plan. Eventually, everyone turned their sights to Mu Xueqing. She was the de facto leader of the class, and everyone obeyed her words. I do have an idea. Mu Xueqing's eyes suddenly lit up. Looking at the crowd, she said, "We are all students, and if we were to try to torment our teacher, once the teacher guild learns of it, we'll surely be punished. Or even worse, if the word of the matter were to spread, our reputation might fall to the gutters." The crowd nodded. In this world, teachers were an esteemed existence and students were expected to obey their teachers' commands. If it was discovered that they tried to harm their own teacher, they would definitely suffer the condemnation of the public, and their families wouldn't let them off easily as well. Then what should we do? Meng Dao asked anxiously. Since we can't do anything to our teacher, then, we should still be allowed to ask questions, right? A mischievous glint appeared in Mu Xueqing's eyes. There are quite a few students in our class who like painting, tea ceremony, formations, equipment forging, pill forging. We can ask questions about these. If he is unable to answer those questions, let's see if he still has the cheek to remain here. That's a good idea. This way, not only will we not offend him, he will also be too embarrassed to remain here. Two birds with one stone. That's a good plan. Hearing Mu Xueqing's idea, everyone's eyes lit up. This was indeed a good plan. Not only would they not offend the other party, they could also humiliate him at the same time. Wait, he is supposed to be a teacher guiding us on our cultivation. If we were to ask about these, he could just say that he isn't adept in those occupations. If so, our plan will be foiled. One of the female students spoke up. Every teacher had their own expertise. Given Qianwu Academy's size, it was natural that they had teachers specializing in the various occupations as well. It was clear that they were up to something if they were to pose all of these questions to a single teacher. Besides, as a teacher specializing in cultivation, it wasn't embarrassing for him to be unable to answer questions on other occupations. After all, it wasn't possible for one to be adept in all occupations. I have already thought of that as well. We can just exert some pressure on him. Mu Xueqing seemed to have already thought of a countermeasure, and a hint of a smile flashed across her beautiful eyes. Exert some pressure on him. That's right. Later, when that teacher arrives, I will say that I have met with Master Teacher Xianxia and he has expressed the intention to accept me as his student. Mu Xueqing smiled. If that's the case, with Xianxia as a backing, that teacher will surely be intimidated. He probably will be hesitant to go too far, and he will be too embarrassed to admit to knowing nothing at all as well. Just that, if Xianxia were to realize that we had made use of his name, won't we be in trouble? A student asked hesitantly. How is that possible? Xianxia is an amazing genius, not to mention, he's a 2-star master teacher as well. We probably won't even get a chance to meet him in our entire life. Who asked him to suddenly become so famous all of a sudden? so much that everyone in the streets is talking about him. Besides, it's just a name, he probably won't ever find out about it. Mu Xueqing flung her hair. The world that Xianxia lived in was vastly different from theirs. It was impossible for them to ever be associated with him. Since he had become a huge topic in the past 2 days, they could make use of his name to intimidate that aggressive teacher. All right, let's do it this way then. After contemplating for a moment, the group felt that there wasn't too much of a problem with the plan and they nodded in agreement. Yuan, when that teacher arrives, make sure not to display your hostility. All of you must be respectful to him so as to not allow him to grab hold of any of your handles. Mu Xueqing instructed. Yes. The group answered. Is this the class I will be taking? Just when the group was busy plotting against Xianxia himself was currently standing outside the classroom, looking around to verify that he had come to the right location. Chapter 323. You're expelled. After Liu Laoxia had settled the problems of the 2 students, Principal Xie no longer doubted his capability and passed the class token over. Based on his teaching experience in Hongqian Academy, he knew that each of these tokens represented a student. Placing them in his storage ring, he started walking toward his classroom. The school was vast, and he got lost several times. It was only after grabbing a passerby and verifying the directions several times that he finally reached his classroom. Jia. Pushing the door open, he walked in. The classroom was much wider than those in Hongqian Academy. It was around 700 to 800 meters square big, and the ground was forged using smooth bluestone. On the 2 ends, there was a sculpted savage beast each, adding an aura of grandness to the classroom. In the center of the room, there were slightly more than a dozen of students surrounding a beautiful lady. They were absorbed in a discussion, and as such, none of them seemed to sense his presence. Xianxia shook his head. The sound of him pushing the open wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft enough for him to go unnoticed either. For all of them to be oblivious to his presence, they were truly lacking in alertness. Walking forward, he was just about to address them when he heard the content of their conversation. Senior, did you really meet Master Teacher Xianxia yesterday? And he said that he wanted to take you in as his student. That is Master Teacher Xianxia, the #1 genius of Qianwu Kingdom. I really want to meet him too. Senior, if you were to become his student, you must bring me to meet him. I am his loyal fan. Same here. The students surrounding that lady had faces flushed with excitement, as if they were fans talking about their idol. Met me. And I intended to take her in as my student. Xianxia was stunned. He hurriedly took a closer look at that lady. He was certain that he had never met that girl before, needless to say, accepting that lady as his student. Besides, he spent the entire day at the Master Teacher Pavilion yesterday, and he came here for the public recruitment right after leaving the library. Thus, how could he have met a Qianwu Academy student? After all, he was someone who didn't even know where the academy was at. Xianxia is currently in the midst of conducting a mission for his 2-star Master Teacher examination, and by the time he's back, he will already be a 2-star Master Teacher. Even though it'll be difficult, I will plead with him to conduct a lecture for us. The lady in the middle grinned. However, halfway through her words, she suddenly noticed Xianxia and she frowned. Who are you? Why are you in our classroom? Huala. The moment she said those words, the students surrounding her immediately turned around to stare at Xianxia with guarded expressions. I have come under the dispatchment of the academy to be your teacher for this term. Facing their gazes, Xianxia said, Our teacher. The students were taken aback. As the recording in the record crystal was taken from quite a distance away, they weren't able to see Xianxia's appearance clearly. However, after hearing that he had beaten a student up, they thought that he would be a bulky person. They didn't think that he would look so refined. Liu Cheng, whom Xianxia was impersonating, was a 24-year-old young man with a slim build. Even though Xianxia thought that the other party's appearance was far from a match to his, at the very least, it was still pleasant to the eye. Paying respect to teacher. The lady in the center coughed, and only then did everyone recover from their daze. They hurriedly bowed and greeted Xianxia. Yuan. My name is Liu Cheng, and you all can call me Liu Laoxia. I will be guiding you all on your cultivation from now onward." After that, Xianxia walked up to the lecture stand and sat down. Then, he turned to the lady in the center and asked, "You have met Master Teacher Xianxia?" Reporting to Liu Laoshi, it was just a stroke of good luck. Mu Xueqing hurriedly nodded her head. "So you really met him? May I know how he looks like?" Xianxia continued asking. "This." Not expecting Liu Laoshi to ask such a question, Mu Xueqing hesitated for a moment before answering. "He is slightly taller than Liu Laoshi, and he has a muscular build. When I met him then, he was dressed in a green robe. His eyes are electrifying and his smile is charming. He gives a feeling of one who is unsullied by the world, as though a deity in the heavens." Even though she had heard numerous stories about Xianxia, no one had ever described his appearance. Even so, she had no choice but to answer Liu Laoshi's question. If she didn't, it would definitely incur the other party's suspicion. Thus, she could only describe him based on her imagination. A bizarre expression appeared on Xianxia's face. Xianxia was at least aware of how high he stood. Since when did he possess such outstanding appearance? Based on my knowledge, if a 2-star master teacher intends to accept a student, countless people would definitely jump at that opportunity. Furthermore, Master Teacher Xianxia is a genius among geniuses, so there must be many talented students interested in coming under his tutelage. So, why would he accept you as his student? He was already sure that the other party was lying, and based on the expressions of the crowd, he could roughly deduce what they were up to. Thus, Xianxia continued questioning. Not expecting this aggressive teacher to ask such difficult questions, Mu Xueqing swayed from side to side. Suppressing the urge to spurt blood, she mustered her courage and continued on with the story. "I helped him on a minor affair yesterday, and upon realizing that my talent is still acceptable, Xianxia decided to take me in. As for the details, I don't really know either." "I see. Since Xianxia is willing to take you in, as a normal teacher, I don't think that I'm qualified to vie with him over a student. You do have the right to choose your teacher as well. Here is your identity token, you should go to him." Flicking his wrist, Xianxia took out a token and threw it over. Xianxia didn't know who the lady was, but her blood was infused into the token. By matching the aura of the two, Xianxia was still able to find her token easily. "What do you mean?" Mu Xueqing subconsciously grabbed the token, but she was in a daze. This wasn't how it should have gone. It was impossible for one to only have a single teacher in his entire life. It should be an honor for a student to have a master teacher value his students. Shouldn't Liu Laoshi value her more after hearing that Xianxia was interested in accepting her? What did he mean by throwing the token over? "I don't mean anything." Xianxia shrugged casually. Lifting his eyelids slightly, he said, "It just means that you're expelled." Expelled. Mu Xueqing's body shuddered, and she nearly spurted a mouthful of blood. "I am a genius. Regardless of where I go, I am someone who all teachers want under their tutelage. Yet, to expel me at first sight? Are you sure you aren't joking?" "That's right. As a student, instead of studying, you choose to use your wits to fool your teacher. Of what use are you to me? Don't worry, I'll report this matter to the academy and have them post an announcement to inform all students of the matter. Thus, you can feel free to go to Xianxia." Xianxia said calmly. Mu Xueqing's body trembled. Due to her appearance and her talent, she was one of the most celebrated students in the academy. If the entire school were to know of her expulsion, how could she face others in the future? She knew that this teacher was eccentric, but this was way too eccentric. Based on her predictions, even if the other party didn't believe that she was acquainted with Xianxia, he would at least be intimidated. After all, what if, against all odds, she was really acquainted with Xianxia? Even the principal would have to take her seriously if that was the case. Yet, this fellow, he didn't even bother to weigh the consequences before expelling her from his class. If scoring poorly in the teacher qualification examination was the most shameful matter for a teacher, then being expelled was the most shameful matter for a student. Even if her cultivation were to reach a high level, this blemish would continue to remain with her no matter where she goes. "I am not fooling, teacher." Gritting her teeth, Mu Xueqing hurriedly spoke up. You aren't fooling me. Xianxia shook his head. Standing up, he placed his hands behind his back and walked slowly around the classroom. Firstly, despite the sound I made coming in, you, as a Pishua realm cultivator, didn't notice me at all. Instead, you continued chatting with the others. Do you think that it makes sense? You chose to disregard the presence of a teacher. This is flouting Clause 17 of the Student Guidelines of Qianwu Academy, disrespecting one's teacher. In severe cases, one is even susceptible to being expelled. Also, to intentionally say that you know Master Teacher Xianxia before me. Let's put aside the question of whether it is real or not. If it is real, it means that you are using Xianxia's reputation to oppress me. Based on Clause 42 of the Student Guidelines, making use of your background to disrespect one's teacher or even threaten him is prohibited. In severe cases, one might even be expelled. On the other hand, if it is false, that means that you are lying to your teacher. This is flouting Clause 45 of the Student Guidelines, spreading false rumors to mislead or deceive a teacher. This is also a clause going against whom calls for expulsion. Regardless of which it is, if we were to operate strictly by the rules, you will be expelled. What else do you have to say for yourself? The Student Guidelines of Qianwu Academy were pasted all over the academy. On his way here, Xianxia had passed by it numerous times, and he had long memorized them all. This bunch of children wanted to climb over his head. Since that was the case, he should first teach them that he wasn't one to be trifled with. Mu Xueqing's face became devoid of color. Staggering backward, she stared at Xianxia as though he was a monster. Didn't he just arrive at the academy? Why is he so familiar with the student guidelines? More importantly, I thought that he is a person who settles matters physically. Why are his verbal skills equally powerful? Pack up your things and leave. I welcome students with their own opinions and thoughts, but I don't welcome students who fan others to stand against me. Xianxia gestured. With just a single word, this lady was able to get the other students to greet him. It was clear that she wielded great prestige among the group. If he didn't intimidate them on the first meeting, it would be impossible for Xianxia to control them in the future. Teaching wasn't confining one's students to follow strictly by one's instructions. However, if Xianxia failed to establish his superior position on the first meeting, he wouldn't be able to control them once they rebelled. More importantly, the students wouldn't learn anything like that. They would underestimate you, and naturally, they wouldn't learn properly from you as well. Teacher, Senior Mu is the most talented student in our class. Despite being only 18 this year, she has already reached Pishua realm. She is our goal and direction, so we beseech teacher to rescind your order. Seeing that the new teacher was going to expel their leader as soon as he arrived, Meng Dao immediately stood forward. Most talented student? Goal and direction. She started training when she was 7, and it has been 11 years since then. During that time, she consumed 3 acupoint soothing pill and 10 other pills, but even so, she only managed to open 12 acupoints, giving her a strength of 16 ding. Despite having learned the floating water palm for 3 years, she has only reached minor accomplishment in it. Furthermore, she isn't adept in it yet, and in a battle, she is unable to bring out its full might. On top of that, at least 7 of her acupoints are completely sealed by her turbid junqi, making it difficult for her to advance in her cultivation. Even reaching Tongxian realm will be a huge hurdle for her. At that point, Xianxia turned to Meng Dao and spoke composedly. This can be called talented as well? You must be joking. Mu Xueqing's face immediately turned as pale as a sheet of paper. Chapter 324. The dumbfounded students. Everyone knew that her cultivation speed was amazing, and that she was a genius. However, none of them knew that it was because of her clan. Furthermore, due to the excessive number of pills she had consumed in the past few years, pill poison had accumulated in her body, making it extremely difficult for her to raise her cultivation. Otherwise, she could have long applied for graduation upon reaching Pishua realm. She wouldn't have to remain in the academy all this while. Not a single teacher had noticed her condition, not even the previous teacher who she was fond of. Yet, This person was able to point out her condition accurately despite having just met her. This was way too fearsome. Could it be that he wasn't an aggressive teacher, but someone who possessed true capability? Mu Xueqing's body trembled. If that wasn't the case, how was he able to tell that 7 acupoints had been sealed with her turbid Xianxia and that it would be hard for her to reach Tongxian realm with just a single gaze? Meng Dao also didn't expect this teacher to know so much either. Even though he had been with Senior Mu daily for several years, he didn't know of this matter either. Frozen on the spot, he wanted to speak up for his senior, but couldn't find the words to say. In the previous academy tournament, Senior Mu was ranked number 10. She is one of the most talented geniuses in the academy, and everyone agrees on it. Why are you saying that she isn't a genius? A female student couldn't accept Zhong Xian's judgment. Being a genius isn't about how far one can progress in a limited period of time, but how far one is able to go. It is incredible that she has reached Pishua realm at her age, but due to pill poison accumulating in her body and the fact that she has cultivated a mindset of reliance on them, her future growth is limited. Zhong Xian shook his head. Since he was taking over the class, he was given basic information on the students. Matching it with the students, he could tell that this lady with appearance that could match Wang Ying's was the strongest student in the class, Mu Xueqing. Knowing her name, it wasn't too difficult to look into her background. Mu Xueqing's father was a famous 2-star apothecary. What others deemed as incomparably valuable pills wasn't anything much to her. While it provided her an edge over the other students, it also created a fatal flaw for her future cultivation. Even though Zhong Xian didn't use the Library of Heaven's Path, given his soul depth of 10.1 and his expertise as an apothecary, he was able to discern and deduce Mu Xueqing's condition with a glance. After all, he used his own strength to take the 2-star master teacher examination. If he couldn't even see this much, it would have been impossible for him to pass the first 4 tests. This Mu Xueqing's cultivation was not bad, but she was too reliant on pills. This was detrimental to her future growth. All medicine possessed poison, and the same applied for pills as well. Of course, that was assuming that the pills didn't reach the level of an inscribed pill. Be it formation, satiation, or perfection, considerable amount of impurities still remained in those pills. Without pure Xianxia to wash away these impurities, it was very easy for the pill poison to accumulate and block one's acupoints, slowing down the progress of one's cultivation. This was precisely the reason why many people choose not to consume pills unless they were unable to achieve a breakthrough with their own strength. It was just like with an illness. If one could tide through it easily, very few people would choose to resort to medicine even if they knew that medicine would help them recover faster. Her current cultivation speed was outstanding. Furthermore, with a 2-star apothecary of a father guiding her along, her foundation was strong as well. However, as time passed, she would slowly lose out to her peers. In fact, it was a huge question whether she could even reach Tongxian realm or not. The pill poison was one problem, but the mindset she formed which made her reliant on pills was another one. As she achieved breakthroughs in her cultivation relying on medicine, she had already lost confidence in herself. She isn't a genius. In fact, you are in a much better position than her. Zhong Xian turned to the female student who had just spoken up for Mu Xueqing and said, even though your cultivation is only at Pigu realm primary stage, you have trained your physical body well, and your state of mind is steady as well. If I'm not wrong, there's a beast tamer in your family who used the blood essence of a savage beast to help you raise your cultivation. Such a method is similar to consuming medicine to raise one cultivation, but as the blood essence of savage beasts is more compatible with the human body, not only will it not hinder your cultivation, it will even make your muscles more compact, thus raising your strength. If I'm not wrong, you should be capable of battling against Pigu realm intermediate stage opponents. The female student nearly leaped in shock. Her father was a 1-star beast tamer, and before she reached Pigu realm, she had consumed the blood essence of a savage beast. This made her physical body significantly stronger than an ordinary cultivator's, thus granting her the strength to fight against those with cultivation exceeding hers. She had only told this matter to a few good friends, so it was impossible for the academy to know of it. Yet, this teacher was able to point it out with a single glance. This was way too scary. However, while the blood essence of a savage beast is not bad, there's a saying that the weak must be slowly nourished. There won't be severe side effects if a male were to consume it, but for you, the body of a female is already weak, and while triggering your physical functions through the blood essence might grant you significant strength in the short run, as time goes by, all kinds of invisible side effects will start appearing. It is just as if a severely ill patient consumed 1,000-year-old ginseng. Not only will his illness not be treated, it might even claim his life. Xianxia shook his head. The female student's skin was slightly red, and her blood was boiling forcefully. Her condition showed signs of the beast-tamer secret arts. Even though it wasn't written in the information provided by the academy, it wasn't too difficult for Xianxia to deduce this much. You as well. After speaking on the two ladies' circumstances, Xianxia's gaze landed on Meng Dao. You have a reserved personality, and there is a shroud of scholarly aura around you. Also, I can see several calluses between your thumb and your middle finger, and I don't think that there's any battle technique that would result in that. Furthermore, there is a slight patch of darkness at the corner of your shirt. If I'm not wrong, you should be fond of painting, and you often imitate the drawings of experts. However, it is a pity that you aren't looking deep enough, resulting in your failure to capture the essence and spirit of whatever you see. If you are to continue painting like that, it is unlikely that you will ever create a spiritual canvas or infused intentions level painting. As for you, you must be interested in tea ceremony. I can catch a slight aroma of tea from you, and it smells refreshing as well. However, you have been spending more time on the way of tea than your cultivation, causing the latter to stagnate and become unstable. If I'm not wrong, you haven't achieved a breakthrough in a year's time. Furthermore, your will in cultivation is lacking. You often ignore your teacher's instructions and spend your time thinking about other matters. You are the typical example of a person who gets easily distracted by toys. With his hands behind his back, Xianxia pointed out the conditions of 4 students straightforwardly, and there was no mistake in his words at all. Everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. The entire room fell silent. What in the world was going on? They had just decided to intentionally ask him questions on their other occupations so as to embarrass him, but, before they could say anything, he had deduced their occupations and spoke about them casually. Could it be that this teacher was skilled in all occupations? If that wasn't the case, how could he deduce so easily based on an ink mark on the corner of his shirt and the scent on the other's body that Meng Dao liked painting and the other male student was interested in tea ceremony? This was way too scary. All right, show me your battle techniques. Seeing that he had managed to amaze everyone, Xianxia turned to the remaining students and said, the situation with the first 4 was more apparent, and he was well versed in their occupations as well. Thus, he was able to speak of them easily. On the other hand, he couldn't do the same for the remaining students. Qianwu Academy was completely different from that countryside Hongqian Academy. Other than cultivating, most students would take on an occupation that they liked as well. Even though most of them wouldn't even reach the level of an apprentice, it could serve as a hobby and a way to train their state of mind. It was just like Liu Shi and the others learning the way of tea from Elder Qian. Their understanding of tea ceremony hadn't reached the level of an apprentice, but this didn't hinder their interest in it at all. These fellows were the same as well. Even though they had learned a little of their supporting occupation, they were still a considerable distance away from reaching the level of an apprentice. Yes. Amazed by the teacher before them, the others immediately executed their battle technique, not daring to hesitate at all. In an instant, the howling of the wind roared in the entire classroom. A moment later, Xianxia nodded his head. He had to say that the students in Qianwu Academy were at a much higher caliber than those in Hongqian Academy. Regardless of whether it was their battle techniques, cultivation techniques, or their understanding toward their supporting occupation, it wasn't something that Zhu Hong, Mo Xiao, and the others could compare to. The battle technique White Canary in the clear skies you practiced has swift and powerful movements, but you aren't able to catch up with their pace. Furthermore, your Xianxia is too lacking to train in this technique. If you were to meet with a slightly stronger opponent, without even moving, if he were to attack your armpit, you would immediately fall in defeat. The reason why there is such a situation is because you aren't serious about your training. If I'm not wrong, your supporting occupation should be a blacksmith. A blacksmith needs to refine all kinds of ores and metals, and this requires great strength. Wielding the hammer for extended periods of time caused the strength of your right arm to far surpass your left, resulting in imbalance. A bird has a pair of wings, and if one wing is stronger than the other, it would be weird if a problem didn't occur. You must be interested in appraising. However, it is a pity that appraising is a money-burning occupation. Judging from how tattered your uniform is, you must have worn it for more than half a year already. Which is to say, your family isn't too well off. Despite not possessing the money, why are you learning appraisal? Without coming into contact with true treasures, will you be able to identify a treasure if you see one? As for you, you are dedicated to your cultivation training, and as such, you didn't pick any supporting occupation. This isn't anything much, but did you realize that even though you are diligent in your training, you didn't improve much? This isn't because you aren't working hard enough or are lacking in talent. It is because you are cultivating wrongly. It should have been a wide and open cultivation technique, but you cultivated it as though a close and confined technique. Walking among the students, every single seemingly casual word of Xianxia would cause a student to pale and sweat profusely. This Liu Laoshi was able to tell the problems in their cultivation and supporting occupations through their battle technique, and his words were spot on. His discerning ability was truly at a frightening level. It was almost terrifying. Their supporting occupations were at a very low mastery, barely coming into contact with the basics, but they spanned over 7 to 8 occupations. Furthermore, Xianxia spoke the same words as those said by their supporting occupation teachers. This wasn't a feat that a normal cultivation teacher should be capable of. In fact, they felt that even a master teacher might not be as discerning as him. This. Mu Xueqing was completely dumbfounded. It was just a moment ago that she confidently said that as long as they asked him some questions on their occupations, this new teacher would definitely back down. Yet, before they could say anything, the other party had already stripped them bare, pointing out to them all their flaws. Aren't you a teacher who dealt with students through violence? Aren't you just a normal teacher, one who hasn't even reached the level of a star teacher? Why do you seem to know everything? Why do you seem to be adept in everything? What kind of monster did the academy send them? Chapter 325. The Shocked Elders Elder Hall. The teachers who came for the public recruitment had all left and Principal Xie was gone as well. All that were left were the elders. The class by Fan Laoshi left behind is one of the best classes in the entire academy, as well as the one that's the hardest to take. I wonder if Liu Laoshi can subdue them and make them listen to him obediently. Upon recalling the arrangements made previously, an elder shook his head. The students in the class possessed superior talent, and on top of their high cultivation, most of them had strong backgrounds as well. Putting everything aside, their leader Mu Xueqing was the only daughter of a 2-star apothecary Mu Dan of the Apothecary Guild, and she was well doted on by him. Putting aside her high cultivation, she had many tricks up her sleeves as well. No ordinary teacher would dare to offend her. I'm afraid that it will be difficult. Those students are troublesome. Have you forgotten the teachers we sent to them before? They didn't even last for a day. Another elder flashed a bitter smile. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have to conduct a public recruitment for them. The main reason why a public recruitment was conducted during the term wasn't just because of the departure of those teachers. After all, if a teacher could take 10 students, taking 20 wasn't too much of a problem either. They could simply scatter the class and spread them out over the others, and assign a few teachers over to take them. However, the main problem was that these students refused to cooperate. Especially this class. They had sent several teachers already, but none of them lasted for more than a few days before being chased away. Furthermore, due to backgrounds of the most of them, the academy wasn't in a position to punish them too harshly as well. After a few rounds, no teachers were willing to accept them anymore. Left without a choice, they could only hire teachers from the outside. I think that there's still a chance though. Those 2 students from before, one of them had an aversion towards studying while the other one was prone to violence. These were the most difficult problems a teacher could face. Yet, this Liu Laoshi easily solved them and even reprimanded the principal at that. He isn't any simple figure as well. He might really be able to subdue all of these students. This Liu Laoshi is indeed gutsy, but each of those students is a thorny one. I wonder what kind of conflicts would emerge when the two of them meet one another. Say, do you all think that they will fight? An elder suddenly asked worriedly. This. Everyone suddenly froze. If it was any other teacher, in fear of the teacher guild and in consideration of their identity, it would be impossible for them to lay their hands on the students. However, they couldn't say the same about that Liu Laoshi. He even dared to insult the principal, a one-star master teacher, to be blind. Not to mention, he had beaten that male student in front of their eyes. If Mu Xueqing and the others went overboard, it seemed very likely that he would get physical with them. If these students were volatile chemicals, then this Liu Laoshi must be an explosive one. Didn't you see the principal's brooding expression? He left as soon as the public recruitment came to an end. This is bad. If they were to fight, given the background of those students, it might cause a huge uproar. That's right, we have to stop them. At this, the elders' faces immediately twisted in fear. Unable to remain still, they hurriedly stood up and rushed over. If the incident of a teacher beating up a student were to occur here, then Qianwu Kingdom would surely become the laughingstock of all surrounding kingdoms. The master-teacher pavilion might even be urged into action. Realizing the graveness of the matter, the elders hurriedly rushed to Zhong Xian's classroom. It's over, look. Before even reaching the classroom, an elder wailed in agony. Hearing the shout, everyone hurriedly turned their gazes over and saw a female student kneeling motionlessly outside the classroom. Upon seeing her appearance, everyone staggered and they nearly keeled over. This was the most troublesome student in the class, Mu Xueqing. This lass had good talent, and her cultivation was high as well. She was already a handful of trouble normally, but to have her kneel at the door. Liu Laoshi, you are about to smash through the heavens. They hurried over. Xueqing, why are you kneeling outside? Hurry up and get up. An elder walked up and tried to help her up. As this elder wasn't even a master-teacher apprentice, he had to address Mu Xueqing's father as Apothecary Mu respectfully whenever he saw the other party. Upon seeing this shocking sight, how could he remain motionless? I can't. Mu Xueqing shook her head. I've done wrong, so it's only deserving for me to be punished. If I were to stand up now, Liu Laoshi will surely expel me. If so, how can I face my father? We will deal with that Liu Laoshi for you, so don't worry. They thought that she would plead with them to deal with Liu Laoshi, but never in their wildest imaginations did they expect her to say such words. Stunned, Elder Bai found the words he was about to say stuck in his mouth. With widened eyes, he asked, what did you say? It's deserving for you to be punished? You have done wrong. The other elders were stunned as well. Mu Xueqing was nicknamed the Little Demoness in the academy due to her unruliness. Yet, to be kneeling at the door and admitting her mistakes. Why did it seem so inconceivable? Indeed. After Liu Laoshi's guidance, I realized my own inadequacies, and I am willing to study under him as his student. Elders, there's no need to persuade me anymore. There was a determined look in Mu Xueqing's eyes. That Liu Laoshi was able to point out her physical problems, as well as those of other students, with a single glance. Without a doubt, he was a person of great capabilities. She had heard her father mentioning the issue of pill poison as well. It was something unavoidable when one consumed pills. Given how Liu Laoshi was able to point out her problems so easily, he might have a solution to it. It wasn't easy for her to come by such an opportunity and such a formidable teacher. If she allowed this chance to pass her by, she would definitely regret it for life. She might be rebellious, but she wasn't a fool. Guidance. Realized your own inadequacies. Elder Bai and the others were perplexed. When did this Mu Xueqing become so obedient? If she was like from the start, she wouldn't have scared away several teachers. Elder Bai, is it possible that Liu Laoshi has already started? An elder suddenly thought of something and he paled. A shudder suddenly ran through everyone's bodies. Given that it was Liu Laoshi they were talking about, it was possible. That male student from before also changed his attitude after being beaten up. Could this Mu Xueqing be the same as well? As such a thought ran through their mind, they subconsciously turned to look at her. However, They couldn't find a single injury on her. Jia. Just when they were perplexed over the matter, the doors suddenly opened. A student walked out. It was Meng Dao. Senior, teacher has asked for you to come in. Yes. Hearing that she had obtained her teacher's permission, Mu Xueqing's eyelids leaped and she immediately charged in excitedly without even bidding the elders farewell. It doesn't seem like she has been beaten up. Baffled by the entire situation, an elder commented. If she was beaten into submission, there should at least be some injuries on her. Even if she wasn't injured, she should harbor some resentment toward the other party. To run in excitedly the moment the teacher called for her to enter, to the point that her face was red in agitation. Who in the world could look so happy and excited after being beaten up? But, if she wasn't beaten up, why in the world would this willful lass be kneeling obediently at the door? You're called Meng Dao, right? An elder hurriedly stopped Meng Dao before he could return to the classroom. Your grandfather, Meng Fan, is a good friend of mine. We've met the other time as well. Elder Jin. Only upon hearing someone call him did Meng Dao realize that there were so many people at the doorstep. Shocked, Meng Dao's body stiffened and he hurriedly clasped his fist. This Elder Jin was a good friend of his grandfather and they've met many times. Did Liu Laoshi inflict any physical punishment on you all? Elder Jin asked. The other elders pricked up their ears as well. Inflict physical punishment. Meng Dao was taken aback. Liu Laoshi is such an amiable person, why would he inflict physical punishment on us? Then, Mu Xueqing. Elder Jin pointed. Oh, Senior Mu did it of her own volition. Teacher got her to pack up and leave this classroom to join the other classes, but Senior was unwilling to. Thus, she kneeled outside in hope that teacher would change his mind. Meng Dao said. Of her own volition. The elders glanced at one another. Based on their previous experiences, if a teacher dared to talk to her like that, this young miss would have already rushed to the elder hall to cause a ruckus. Why was she keeping silent this time, even willingly kneeling at the door? Elders, Liu Laoshi is still in the midst of the lesson and I have to get back now. Farewell. After saying so, Meng Dao hurriedly rushed back into the classroom. Seeing that the fellow was the same as well, the elders couldn't help but open a slit in the classroom doors and peer in. Through the slit, they could see the students standing respectfully before Liu Laoshi. No matter what Liu Laoshi asked them to do, they would immediately carry it out without protesting or hesitating at all. Was this really that most unruly and troublesome class of the academy? How did it suddenly change so abruptly? Even if Liu Laoshi was capable, how long has it been since he left the elder hall? Adding it up, it was only an hour at most. In this time, he managed to whip the most rebellious students in the academy into obedience. Can anyone tell me what is going on? All of the elders felt dizzy. Chapter 326. 3 sentences in the classroom. Mu Xueqing was staring straight forward without blinking at all. She thought that Liu Laoshi would say something after calling her in, but he only got her to stand by in the corner while he continued to offer pointers to the other students one by one. During your cultivation, do you feel a slight blockage when your Xianxia flows through your chest? Walking up to a youngster, Liu Laoshi said. Yes. The youngster was shocked to hear Liu Laoshi's words, but he still nodded. The cultivation technique you took up at the start is Qianwu fundamental formula. There isn't too much of a problem with your cultivation technique, but when you were trying to break through to the Xianxia realm, you directed your Xianxia into the wrong meridian, causing a problem to occur with your body. Am I right? That's right. The youngster clenched his fist and nodded. That was true, but it was a matter of 2 years ago, and his previous teacher had already solved this trauma for him. After which, you switched to 4 tributaries true martial formula. This cultivation technique is slightly calmer than the former, and it did help to alleviate your problem. However, it doesn't solve the root of your problem, and as time went by, your hidden trauma worsened. Liu Laoshi looked at him calmly. Listen to me, switch to Eastern Blaze Art. Eastern Blaze Art. The corners of Mu Xueqing's mouth twitched. That was the most violent cultivation technique Qianwu Academy had. Even ordinary cultivators had to be careful when practicing it. fearful that it might inflict some grievous injury on them. Given that the other party had already sustained a trauma, wasn't practicing this cultivation technique no different from courting death? The youngster also realized that something was amiss, and his face distorted in distress. Rest assured, I am here. Nothing will happen to you. Liu Laoshi gestured grandly. All right. Clenching his teeth, the youngster nodded. Eastern blaze art couldn't be considered a valuable cultivation technique, and there was a copy in the classroom. Taking the copy, the youngster flipped through it and started cultivating. Driving his Xianxia according to the formula written inside the manual, the youngster flushed and paled at intervals, as though he was suffering from irrepressible pain. Just when Mu Xueqing thought that he would fail to hold on and his cultivation would go berserk, his aura suddenly rose. Boom! The sound of Xianxia exploding resounded, and the aura within the other party's body suddenly soared swiftly. A BR breakthrough! Mu Xueqing uttered with quivering lips. Unable to comprehend the sight before her, her body trembled in shock. The other students also stared at the seemingly inconceivable sight with eyes widened as though agog. As fellow peers who were together on a daily basis, they knew the situation of that youngster well. He had been stuck at his current cultivation realm for more than half a year without progressing at all. The previous teacher had tried many methods, and even Mu Xueqing had pleaded with her father for a precious pill for him, but it was all to no avail. His previous teacher said that he could only persevere and progress slowly. It would take at least 2 years before his cultivation could start to advance. In the end, just by getting him to change a cultivation technique, Liu Laoshi managed to induce a breakthrough in his cultivation. Did it have to be so exaggerated? Do you find it difficult for you to harness your strength? It is because of your Xianxia. Ignoring everyone's shock, Liu Laoshi acted as though he had only done something insignificant and immediately went on to the next student. 10 minutes later, the student's aura also rose suddenly, and with a boom, he broke through his bottleneck and achieved an advancement in his cultivation realm. Pang! 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 In less than 4 hours, all of the students in the classroom had their cultivation raised significantly. This Liu Laoshi was as though an enlightened sage. With just a few words, he was able to point out the problems in their cultivation and resolve them. With a pale face, Mu Xueqing's entire body stiffened. This sight was too shocking. Those who were weak-minded would have probably gone insane on the spot. Her father was a 2-star apothecary, and due to his esteemed standing, she had met with numerous star teachers and even master teachers. But even the master teachers she met weren't so incredible as to get a person to achieve a breakthrough in their cultivation with just a few casual words. This was completely beyond her comprehension. How could he be so incredible? He is probably on par with Xianxia. Swallowing a mouthful of saliva, at this moment, Mu Xueqing felt nothing but reverence for Liu Laoshi. When she first heard of how this teacher inflicted physical punishment on a student, she was extremely angry, and she even found herself loathing him. Yet, after seeing the other party inducing a breakthrough in each of them with just a few casual pointers, she realized that he was an extraordinarily capable teacher. He didn't pale in comparison to her idol, master teacher Xianxia. When did the academy recruit such a monster? Looking at the other students, Mu Xueqing trembled once more. The gazes they directed toward Liu Laoshi had changed as well. They were filled with admiration and respect. From the looks of it, even if she were to try to incite them to stand against him, none of them would listen to her. In less than 4 hours, he managed to surpass her position in the group's hearts. Even though this was all happening before her eyes, she couldn't help but suspect that her eyes were playing tricks on her. It's your turn. Disregarding the frenzied Mu Xueqing, Xianxia walked up to another youngster. This was the final student in the class, Lu Chong. He was currently at Fighter 5 Dan Dingli Realm Primary Stage. Upon seeing the teacher, the youngster didn't say anything. He simply clasped his fist and stood silently on the spot. Liu Laoshi, Lu Chong doesn't like to speak. Meng Dao hurriedly walked up. UN. I heard that his cultivation and family background are ordinary, and it is because he kneeled at the entrance of Qianwu Academy for 7 days straight that an exception was made for him. Recalling the information provided by the academy, Xianxia asked. Most of the students in this class had huge backgrounds, but this Lu Chong was an exception. The part on his background and family was vague, and the only thing detailed was that he had kneeled outside for 7 days straight before his admission.
Yes.
Meng Dao nodded. To be able to kneel for so long to become a student of the academy, you do have the tenacity. However, cultivation isn't all about tenacity. Xianxia shook his head. Without a doubt, the student before him was the most stoic student in the class. However, despite having been admitted into the academy for 2 years, he had only managed to progress from Pigu Realm Primary Stage to Dingli Realm Primary Stage. The cultivation technique you are currently practicing is Frost Martial Technique, right? Xianxia continued looking at Lu Chong. The youngster nodded silently. Please don't blame him, Liu Laosha. He is like that. We have been together for more than 2 years, but he hasn't spoken more than 3 sentences. Seeing how the fellow was still reluctant to talk, Meng Dao quickly explained awkwardly. Oh. He hasn't spoken more than 3 sentences in 2 years. Xianxia chuckled softly. I will make him speak more than 3 sentences now. Meng Dao was taken aback, and the others expressed their disbelief as well. Even Mu Xueqing couldn't help but shake his head. This Lu Chong was no different from a mute. Even her, as Qianwu Academy's famous beauty, was unable to pry his mouth open. The previous teacher also failed to make him speak as well. If not for the fact that they had heard him speak before, they would have thought that he was mute. He hadn't even spoken 3 sentences in 2 years. To make him speak more 3 sentences now? How was that possible? You all don't believe me. Sensing the crowd's disbelief, Xianxia asked. Then, he turned to the youngster before him and asked him as well, You don't believe me as well? Lu Chong was still silent. Fine then. Not minding it, Xianxia placed his hands behind his back and said, If you were to cultivate on like that, you won't even reach Pishua realm in 10 years. At this rate, you will be dead before you can exact your vengeance. Exact vengeance. Everyone was taken aback. Why did Liu Laosha suddenly bring up exacting some vengeance? They had been with Lu Chong for 2 years, but they had never heard that he had a grudge against anyone. Just when they were perplexed over the matter, they saw the seemingly mute youngster suddenly turning pale, and his body trembled in agitation. Teacher, how did you know that my goal is to exact vengeance? You don't have to bother how I know of it. Your vengeance is both a motivation as well as a hindrance to your cultivation. You are suppressing your worries too deep within, and it has suppressed your cultivation, making it difficult for you to achieve a breakthrough. I know that the reason you refuse to speak is because you're afraid that you might accidentally speak of your enemy's name and make them aware of your existence. Xianxia said calmly. Don't worry, as long as you believe in me, I promise you that you will be able to exact your vengeance within 10 days. 10 days. Lu Chong found his words hard to believe. This enemy is a Tongxian realm expert. He was only at Dingli realm primary stage, whereas his enemy was a Tongxian realm expert. There was a huge gap between the two, and it couldn't be covered that easily. Let alone 10 days, even 5 years would be insufficient for him to catch up. It's your choice to choose whether you want to believe me or not. However, you only get this one chance. Xianxia said. Conflicted, Lu Chong hesitated for a moment before gritting his teeth. His knees caved in and put on. He kneeled on the floor. Liu Laosha, please guide me. It has been more than 3 sentences. Hearing the duo's conversation, everyone flew into a frenzy. Near the Master-Teacher Pavilion, in a grand residence. Liu Shi, how long will it take before teacher finishes his 2-star Master-Teacher examination and returns? Zhao Ya asked. I don't know either. I've tried looking into the affair at the Master-Teacher Pavilion this morning, and based on what I've got, he has already left the capital to conduct the mission, and they estimated that it would take at least 10 days. Recalling the answer from the Master-Teacher Pavilion, Liu Ling replied. That is quite long. Zhao Ya's eyebrows furrowed into deep creases. 10 days isn't really long. It depends on how you look at it. How about I bring you all around Qianwu Royal City so that you all can expand your horizons? Seeing the bitter look on the faces of Xianxia students, Liu Ling chuckled. Expand our horizons? Sure. Where are we going? Yuan Dao's eyes lit up. Qianwu Royal City was a city far grander than any of those in Xianxia Kingdom. He had already wanted to explore the city, and upon hearing Liu Shi's words, he could no longer hold back his excitement. Why don't I bring you all to Qianwu Academy first? That is the greatest academy in the 13 surrounding kingdoms, a sacred land for cultivators. From time to time, the master teachers from the Master Teacher Pavilion would head there to conduct lectures. It might be good for you to take a look around there. Liu Ling pondered for a moment before replying. Master teachers conduct lectures there as well. The greatest academy. Xianxia would take a minimum of 10 days anyway. It would be good to take a look. Upon hearing that master teachers would conduct lessons there and that it was a sacred land for cultivators, everyone was moved. Furthermore, I heard that Qianwu Academy promotes a free learning environment, so we can enter the lesson of any teacher freely without reporting in advance. It would be good for you to listen to the lectures of other teachers as well. Liu Ling smiled. All right. Hearing that they could listen in to any lessons they wanted, the crowd was excited. Thrilled, Zhao Ya and the others immediately set off for Qianwu Academy. Chapter 327. Teacher, I was wrong. Teacher, can I really exact vengeance within 10 days? In the one-to-one tutoring room, Lu Chong kneeled before Xianxia. Until now, he still found the situation hard to believe. Shouldering a debt of bloodshed, he had never told anyone about his burden, and he never expressed it either. In order to prevent himself from revealing it in his dreams or such, he even feigned a mute. He was confident that he had hidden it well. But this Liu Laosha was able to conclude that he was shouldering a huge grudge just by hearing of his past affairs and his cultivation state. His capability was way too fearsome. More importantly, the other party promised him that he would be able to exact his vengeance within 10 days. His enemy was a Tongxian realm cultivator. If it was that simple, he wouldn't have to cultivate as though his life was at stake for the past 2 years. Since I have promised you as such, I have my own ways. However, my method will be excruciating, and whether you can take it or not will be up to your will. Xianxia looked at the youngster. He was extremely satisfied with this student of his. In order to learn under a teacher to raise his cultivation, he was willing to kneel for 7 days straight for fear of revealing his secret. He pretended to be mute for 2 years straight. Regardless of which it was a clear sign that he had strong mental fortitude and a resolute will. His talent might not be anything much, but as long as he was groomed properly, his cultivation would definitely soar. It was just a matter of time before he surpassed Mu Xueqing. Otherwise, Xianxia wouldn't have said that much to him. When accepting students, he valued mental fortitude and will more than anything else. As for talent, with his capability, it didn't mean anything to him. As long as I can have my revenge, I am willing to suffer any kind of pain. Lu Chong clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were determined. All right. Placing his hands behind his back, Xianxia stared at him with deep eyes. There's a special occupation which none is willing to come in contact with or bring up. Have you heard of poison masters? I have. Lu Chong nodded. He had wanted to learn the art of a poison master back then, but he didn't have the connections to look for the poison hall. Teacher, could it be that? Lu Chong hesitated for a moment before asking doubtfully. Wasn't poison master a job which was looked down on by the others? Could it be that Liu Laosha was a poison master? Or did he want to impart to him the skills of a poison master? I am not a poison master, and I won't teach you that either. Seeing through his thoughts, Xianxia shook his head. I have a way that can raise your strength swiftly, but it will require the use of poison. Even though it won't be detrimental to your future cultivation, you will have to suffer excruciating pain. Furthermore, if you fail to endure it, you will die. What he was referring to was the method to cultivate the poison body which he saw in the books in the poison hall. Once one managed to successfully cultivate the poison body, not only would one be immune to the toxicity of poisons, one's strength, spirit, and agility would be enhanced significantly as well, granting one significantly higher fighting prowess. Other than the Heaven's Path divine art, the only way to raise his strength immensely within the limited time he had was this. Usually, when poison masters cultivated the poison body, They would consume poison and this would affect their longevity. Back then, the reason why Gu Mu sustained a trauma was due to this as well. However, after the compilation of the Library of Heaven's Path, the detriments to the cultivation method had been reduced to the bare minimum. Even so, without the support of Heaven's Path Xianxia, it wouldn't be easy to cultivate it. One would have to suffer a great pain. Since Lu Chong possessed strong mental fortitude, it was worth a try. Perhaps, he might produce outstanding results. Regardless of how much pain it puts me in, as long as it allows me to exact vengeance, I am willing to give it a try. Lu Chong's eyes were filled with resolve. He only had this one opportunity. While he was cultivating, his enemy wasn't resting either. Given his talent of only a single rise in a cultivation realm every 2 years, it was impossible for him to ever surpass the other party. Since this Liu Laoshi said that he could give him the strength to exact vengeance within 10 days, he was willing to believe in the party. He had seen with his own eyes how his fellow peers grew visibly stronger under his guidance. No matter how foolish he could be, it was obvious that he was a person of great means. Seeing the resolve in the other party's eyes, Xianxia nodded in satisfaction. Then, with a deep and slightly cold voice, he warned, "The cultivation technique that I am about to impart you must not be leaked to anyone. Otherwise, even if I don't do anything, you will suffer a recoil from your Xianxia and you will die tragically." "Yes." Lu Chong nodded. Raising a hand, he swore, "I, Lu Chong, swear to never impart the cultivation technique and secret arts Liu Laoshi impart me to anyone else, and if I were to break my vow, may my soul dissipate." UN. Xianxia tapped on an acupoint on Lu Chong's body and discreetly sent a surge of Xianxia into his body. The cultivation technique he was imparting to the other party was too powerful. If it were to leak out, it would bring trouble to him, as well as the world. Even though the other party had sworn to it, he himself needed to prepare a countermeasure as well. After his study and research of poison, his Heaven's Path Xianxia was capable of turning into a tonic or a poison with a single thought. If the other party were to seal his mouth tightly, this surge of Xianxia would clear away all of the obstacles lying in his meridians and raise his cultivation. However, if he were to abuse his strength, this surge of Xianxia could also have him killed in an instant. Cultivating the poison body requires the complementation of poison. I don't have such medicinal herbs on me at the moment, so I will impart the cultivation technique to you tomorrow. However, I will teach you another technique that can strengthen your physical body. You should learn it well as a strong physical body is required to withstand the lethal poison. After making preparations, Xianxia looked him in the eye and said, "I will only recite the cultivation formula once. How much you remember and understand will depend on your ability. Don't let me down." "I won't let teacher down." Lu Chong nodded. "Very well, this physical body enhancement technique." Xianxia started explaining. The technique he was referring to was the Heaven's Path Golden Body. Of course, he imparted the simplified version which he imparted to Zhao Ya and the others as well. Cultivating the poison body required one's body to come into contact with lethal poison. If one's body wasn't strong enough, it would be hard for one to hold on. Even though this Heaven's Path Golden Body was inferior to the one which Xianxia cultivated, it was still a product of the Library of Heaven's Path and it mustn't be underestimated. As long as one cultivated it seriously, it wouldn't be a problem for one to grow stronger swiftly. And this is what we call a complete body. Soon, Xianxia finished reciting the cultivation formula. "Teacher, thank you for your bestowment." After hearing the formula of the technique, Lu Chong's body trembled and his face flushed in agitation. Having studied in Qianwu Academy for 2 years, he had seen quite a few cultivation techniques and he also knew of a few physical body enhancement technique formulas. Compared to the one which Liu Laoshi had just taught him, they were all trash. At the very least, this technique was at phantom pinnacle or above. If Liu Laoshi were to auction it, it would definitely fetch an astronomical sum. Even the Qianwu royal family would go in a frenzy for it. It was such a valuable technique, yet Liu Laoshi taught it to him without asking for anything. This was a huge debt which he would never be able to repay. "You should start cultivating." Ignoring the other party's agitation, Xianxia waved his hands casually. "Yes." Knowing that teacher didn't like to waste his words, Lu Chong hurriedly sat on the floor and started cultivating. Following the Heaven's Path Golden Body's formula, Lu Chong drove his Xianxia on a specific path in his body, and after a moment, he felt an extremely comfortable and relaxing sensation gush through his body. All of the traumas he had sustained before instantaneously disappeared. Incredible! After an unknown period of time, a cracking sound echoed in the muscles throughout Lu Chong's body, and his strength rose significantly. Who? Lu Chong opened his eyes. At this moment, he felt as though he harnessed boundless strength in his body. UN, not bad. You managed to achieve minor accomplishment within 2 hours. This shows that you have a good foundation. Xianxia nodded his head in satisfaction. For revenge, the other party was willing to take all kind of pain, so he must have trained his body for this goal as well. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to reach minor accomplishment for the simplified version of Heaven's Path Golden Body within 2 hours. You can go out now. Your other classmates are probably anxious for you. After he was done with the cultivating the physical body enhancement technique, Xianxia pushed the door and walked out. It had been more than 2 hours since the duo entered, and the students outside were probably anxious from waiting already. In the classroom, Liu Laoxia said that he would grant Lu Chong the strength to defeat a Tongxian realm expert within 10 days. Do you think that it is possible? Until now, that student was unable to believe it. I don't know either. However, judging from how Liu Laoxia was able to help us achieve breakthroughs in our cultivation just by giving us a few casual pointers, I doubt that his discernment is inferior to that of a master teacher. I have heard the lessons of a master teacher before, and it is only slightly deeper than the lecture of our previous teacher. Compared to Liu Laoxia, I think that their lessons are lacking. Indeed, is he really just an ordinary teacher? Discussions sounded in the classroom. Initially, they harbored deep hostility toward this teacher. However, the moment he started guiding them, everyone immediately realized that they had met with a good teacher and fell to his side. At Tongxian realm, one's strength exceeds 100 ding, granting them the might to easily split open a tree. Lu Chong is currently only at Dingli realm primary stage, and that is 2 whole realms away from Tongxian realm. How can he possibly reach Tongxian realm in 10 days under such conditions? Mu Xueqing shook her head. She was at Pishua realm, and she knew how difficult it was to raise one's cultivation. It would already be incredible if Lu Chong could reach Dingli realm intermediate stage within 10 days. To advance 2 whole realms and match a Tongxian realm expert. To her, it sounded no different from boasting. Indeed. Meng Dao nodded as well. Back then, it took him an entire year of effort to advance from Dingli realm primary stage to advanced stage. To reach Tongxian realm within 10 days, he didn't think that it was possible either. Jia. Just when they were discussing, the door suddenly opened and Liu Laoxia and Lu Chong walked out. At this moment, Lu Chong looked spirited, and his eyes were filled with energy. Explosive power could be felt from his body, and it felt like the mighty waves in the ocean, exerting great pressure on the one looking at him. Dingli realm, pinnacle. Upon sensing his aura, Mu Xueqing and Meng Dao fell silent. Their eyes grew so wide that they were about to pop out from their eyes. How long had it been since he entered the room with Liu Laoxia? To advance from Dingli realm primary stage to pinnacle in 2 hours, the duo felt like spurting blood. Compared to him, their cultivation speed was no different from a snail's. It took them several months before they could see a slight progress in their cultivation. Yet Liu Laoxia simply brought Lu Chong in for just a while and he had already broken through 2 smaller realms. Did it have to be that exaggerated? Furthermore, they were oblivious to the fact that Lu Chong's simplified Heaven's Path Golden Path had granted him the strength exceeding that of an ordinary Dingli realm pinnacle. Adding his physical strength along with that of his Xianxia, he possessed an astounding might of 5 ding. An ordinary Dingli realm pinnacle could only wield a might of 4 ding. This is too incredible. Senior, I think it is best that you admit your mistake. It is impossible to find such an incredible teacher anywhere else. Suppressing his shock, Meng Dao hurriedly sent a telepathic message to Meng Dao. Halfway through his words, Meng Dao realized that the other party wasn't responding. Thinking that his senior's proud nature was acting up again, he hurriedly turned around to persuade her, but the unexpected sight before him nearly caused him to faint. Putong. The incomparably arrogant little demoness Mu Xueqing, who would never admit her mistakes, was already kneeling before Liu Laoshe with an earnest expression on her face. Teacher, I am in the wrong. Please forgive me. I will do whatever you ask of me in the future. I won't disobey you ever again. Even if that genius master teacher Zhongxian were to come over, I will disregard him as though he is just mere air. Zhongxian. Chapter 328, Brawl of the Two Ladies Stand Up. Even though he felt dismayed at Mu Xueqing's words, Zhongxian walked over to help her up. He didn't intend to quarrel with a student over this affair. The only reason why he threatened her with expulsion was to warn her so that she would listen obediently in the future. Due to her consumption of pills from young, the pill poison had already permeated deep into her body, blocking her meridians tightly like shackles. He needed her unreserved trust to clear away the impurities in her meridians. Thus, he intentionally gave her the cold shoulder so that she could think it through and cherish this opportunity. If she was willing to grasp this opportunity, Zhongxian didn't mind saving her. However, if she decided to remain obstinate, Zhongxian didn't think of it as a huge loss either. At worst, he would just lose a student. If he wanted, he could easily groom students with cultivation surpassing hers within 10 days. Even though there is poison in the pills, it isn't a severe problem. Otherwise, the standing of alchemists won't be that high either. Zhongxian explained, your cultivation method has the effect of swiftly propelling the medicinal energy through your body, allowing it to take effect swiftly. However, at the same time, it also causes the pill poison to be absorbed into your body swiftly as well, thus causing your condition to become so severe. Over the years, the pill poison accumulated in your meridians, making it difficult to expel it. Write down your cultivation technique, I will modify it for you. As long as you cultivate according to it, the pill poison that has sunk into your body should be expelled in less than 10 days and you will experience a rise in your cultivation as well. Pill poison was a difficult problem for even a 4-star master teacher. However, given that Zhongxian had cultivated the Heaven's Path Divine Art, the cultivation technique closest to perfection, it wasn't too difficult for him to solve it. Yes. Not daring to hesitate, Mu Xueqing quickly copied down her cultivation technique on a piece of paper. After taking a look at it, he did a few modifications before passing the paper back to her and instructing her to cultivate according to it. An hour later, Mu Xueqing felt a refreshing sensation gushing through her body. The shackles which seemed to be binding her body before seemed to have been released, and a relaxing feeling surged to embrace her body from within. In fact, she even managed to achieve a small breakthrough in her cultivation, opening up another acupoint. Sensing the change in her body, Mu Xueqing finally understood how incredible this Liu Laoshe was. Instantaneously, she was filled with gratitude for him. All right, we'll end the lesson here. You all may leave now. After settling Mu Xueqing's issue, Zhongxian casually waved his hands. The crowd nodded and left the classroom. Leaving the classroom, the group could no longer suppress the excitement in their hearts. Liu Laoshe is simply too formidable. After his guidance, I realized that my cultivation method was entirely wrong. If I were to cultivate according to his instructions, I will surely be able to reach Dingli realm in less than 3 months. It's the same for me as well. After cultivating according to the formula teacher gave me, I feel relaxed all over, and my strength is also progressing swiftly. I didn't expect that a problem I didn't think much of would weigh me down so much. This is what a truly incredible teacher is like. Did you notice that we actually know about the things he had pointed out, but we have never thought of putting them together? I thought that the academy would send another mediocre teacher over, but to think that Liu Laoshe would be this formidable. Everyone's eyes were glowing. Even though it hadn't been long since they met with their new teacher, they were already completely amazed by him. To be able to raise our cultivation with just a few casual pointers, even master teachers might not possess such capability. Hearing the group's discussion, Meng Dao couldn't help but add in. Indeed. I've had the honor of meeting with several master teachers, and I even once obtained Pavilion Master Jiang's tutelage jade token and listened to 2 hours of his lecture. His lecture was impressive, but he was still lacking compared to Liu Laoshe's precise guidance. Mu Xueqing nodded. Due to her family background, she had come into contact with numerous master teachers from young, to the point that she had even listened to Pavilion Master Jiang's lesson before. However, his guidance wasn't as spot-on as Liu Laoti's, the latter pointing straight to the crux of the problem and allowing one to improve immensely once they corrected it. Even Pavilion Master Jiang's lesson is lacking compared to his? Does this mean that our Liu Laoti's teaching ability is already above that of a 2-star master teacher? Meng Dao asked in disbelief. Not only Pavilion Master Jiang, I think that the genius master teacher Xianxia also pales in comparison to him. He only managed to cause a huge uproar in the master teacher examination due to his talent. The cultivation of his students aren't anything much. Based on what I've heard, they are all at Dingli realm, and even the strongest of them was only at Pishue realm. Mu Xueqing continued. If he was really as proficient in teaching as Liu Laoshi, how could his students be so weak? With a new idol, Mu Xueqing was no longer blinded in her reverence for the genius master teacher. Recalling the news she had heard, she made a comparison between Zhongxian and Liu Laoshi, and arrived at this conclusion. Master teacher Zhongxian was a talented individual, but in terms of teaching, it was impossible for him to match up to Liu Laoshi. Otherwise, how could his direct disciples be so weak? One had to know that Liu Laoshi had claimed that he could make Lu Chong defeat a Tongxian realm expert within 10 days. Regardless of how short the duration when master teacher Zhongxian's students had been with him, it was definitely more than 10 days. It was clear who was the superior one. Who did you say was mediocre in teaching? I dare you to repeat your words. Mu Xueqing had just finished speaking her piece when a cold voice sounded out behind them. Turning around, they saw an incredibly beautiful lady who was around Mu Xueqing's age standing in the distance. Her eyebrows were knitted tightly together in displeasure. Upon seeing this lady, Mu Xueqing, who always prided herself on her looks, couldn't help but gasp in admiration. However, envy soon welled up in her. What business of yours is it whomever I speak of? Mu Xueqing harumphed coldly. She was the little demoness who feared nothing at all. She might have become an obedient lamb facing Liu Laoshi's authority, but if a random stranger thought that she could climb over her head, then she must be dreaming. Did you just say that master teacher Zhongxian is mediocre in teaching, and his students are weak? The beautiful lady opposite to her stared at her with eyes burning with fury. Why? Have I said anything wrong? There is nothing to be said about Zhongshi's talents, but the students he taught are truly ordinary. Just by looking at their cultivation, one can tell that his teaching abilities are subpar. Mu Xueqing was a person who favored the carrot over the stick. Even though she revered Zhongxi a lot, she couldn't help but retaliate verbally upon sensing the threat the lady's voice. Since you said so, let's not waste any words. Do you dare to duel with me? The lady's face steeled and she gritted her silver teeth. Duel with you? Mu Xueqing was taken aback. She must be sick. She only casually said that master teacher Zhongxian's lessons couldn't compare up to Liu Laoshi's, yet this lass was acting as though she had killed her entire family. What in the world was she up to? However, as the little demoness and one of the top students in the entire Qianwu kingdom, she couldn't back down a duel. Let's fight then. Do you think that I will be scared of you? Harumphing coldly, Mu Xueqing flung her sleeve. Senior. Seeing the little demoness flying to a rage, Meng Dao and the others were shocked. They hurriedly tried to stop her. On the other hand, another lady beside the beautiful lady looked a little worried as well. Jiawei, Liu Shi told us not to cause any trouble. The female said feebly, worried that they would get into trouble. Wang Ying, they have already insulted our teacher, are we to tolerate it? A young man stepped forward. With a flick of his wrist, he whipped out the spear behind his back, and the joints of the spear started fixing itself together. Indeed, we can't tolerate it. They have insulted our teacher and us. So what if this is Qianwu Academy? A plump-faced fatty stepped forward. They were Zhao Wei, Xingyang, and the others who came to Qianwu Academy for a leisurely stroll. They had been walking around Qianwu Academy, and the grandeur of the top academy of the 13 surrounding kingdoms had indeed left them stunned. After walking for an entire afternoon, just as they were about to return, they heard someone insult Zhong Laoshi. How could they watch by the side as the respected figure in their hearts was being sullied? They could tolerate being insulted themselves, but they couldn't allow anyone to insult Zhong Laoshe. In their hearts, Zhong Laoshe was an existence equivalent to a god. What Liu Laoshe and Xianxia, all of those meant nothing to them at all. Seeing Xingyang and Yuan Dao fervently supporting Zhao Yue's decision, Wang Ying hesitated for a moment before nodding her head. All right. Zhongxian's 5 students always had a fearless personality. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dared to challenge Lu Xun publicly during the teacher evaluation. Even though they were at Qianwu Academy, and they had no connections or backing here, they couldn't forgive the fact that someone had dared to insult their teacher. There is a sparring ring right in front. Whoever loses must apologize to the other party. Zhao Yue's pitch-black hair flew in the air, and in an instant, she felt as though a pure and valiant goddess. Do you dare to accept the challenge? What is there to fear? Rather, I'm afraid that you will go back on your words when you lose. Mu Xueqing didn't back down at all. Then cut the crap, let's go. Zhao Yue couldn't be bothered to argue with the other party, and she began to walk toward the dueling ring. As an academy for cultivators, Qianwu Academy had average-sized sparring rings throughout the entire campus to allow students to spar with one another and raise their cultivation. What's wrong? It seems like little demoness Mu Xueqing is sparring with someone. Sparring with someone? Who would be so daring as to fight with her? Zhao Wuxing? Or is it Liu Changyang? It isn't them. I haven't seen the other party before either. It is an extremely beautiful lady, so beautiful that I couldn't believe my eyes. The battle between 2 beauties? I have to take a look then. Sensing the strong smell of gunpowder between the duo, the other students, who were walking leisurely around the campus, were immediately roused and innumerable people gathered around the sparring ring. Mu Xueqing was both beautiful and strong, and she had always been in the center of attention in the academy. Not to mention, the lady she was facing was even more beautiful than her. In an instant, the attention of the entire academy was focused on this duel. Large circles of crowd gathered around the sparring ring. She's indeed beautiful. Why haven't I met her before? She must be new. Otherwise, given her beauty, it is impossible for me to not have heard of her. Upon seeing Zhao Yue, the eyes of the student population lit up. After triggering her pure yin body, her disposition and appearance became refined, and she stood out from the typical ladies. In an instant, she attracted everyone's gazes, and the eyes of many male students were glowing. Damn it! Seeing those male students directing furious glares at her, Mu Xueqing's face steeled, and she was about to explode with fury. In the past, regardless of where she went, she was the center of attention. But at this moment, her spotlight was being stolen by some other lady. How could she take this lying down? If I don't leave you smash your head until you even forget your own name, I'll forsake my surname. Clenching her jaws forcefully, Mu Xueqing clenched her fists tightly. Chapter 329, Dual Agreement. Zhao. Even though there isn't much to be said about the other party's character, she isn't weak. You must be careful. Xingyang stepped forward and told Zhao Yue with a hushed voice. Yuan, don't worry. Zhao Yue responded. After Zhong Laoshe's guidance yesterday, she opened up another 10 acupoints. Even though the lady before her wasn't weak, she could only be considered to be on par with her. When it comes down to it, it was hard to say who would lose. Who? Leaping forward, Zhao Yue landed lightly on the sparring ring. Staring at Mu Xueqing with her black beady eyes, she gestured with her hands and said, "Let's begin." HMPH. Refusing to back down, Mu Xueqing leaped onto the sparring ring as well. She unleashed her might, which had just risen from her breakthrough just a moment ago, and strength gushed through her as though a flowing river. It's beginning. The battle between the 2 beauties. Seeing the 2 beauties facing each other on the sparring ring, the crowd immediately fell silent, fearful that they would interrupt their concentration. I will make you apologize. With a clear thud, Zhao Yue pushed against the floor and charged forth. At the same time, a howling aura which bore some reminiscence to the gleam of a sword shrouded her arms. The one to apologize will be you. Refusing to yield, Mu Xueqing also charged forward.
Bing, 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 bing.
Soon, The duo had already traded blows several times. As Pishua realm cultivators, the might of their blows caused a violent sonic boom to burst in the air. Incredible! Where did this lady come from? Despite her young age, she is actually able to match Mu Xueqing. Amidst the crowd, a young man looked at the battle with a perplexed expression. It was the student who was ranked first in the student tournament, Zhao Wuxing. I have no idea as well. It seemed as though she suddenly appeared today. Beside him, another person looked at the stage with a doubtful expression as well. If Mu Xueqing saw this person, she would definitely recognize him as the one who was placed second in the student tournament, Liu Changyang. Despite being the two most famous students in the academy, Zhao Wuxing and Liu Changyang couldn't hold back their curiosity to spectate the battle. Who do you think will win? After looking for a moment longer, Liu Changyang chuckled. In just a few days, Mu Xueqing's cultivation has improved, and the restraint in her movements has also disappeared, causing her fighting prowess to soar greatly. Even though the lady she is facing is using inferior battle techniques, her movements were forceful. Furthermore, there seems to be some kind of frosty aura to her moves, making it difficult for one to face it head-on. I can't really say for sure who will win. After hesitating for a moment, Zhao Wuxing said. As the #1 student in the entire academy, his eye for such matters was astonishing. However, regardless of whether it was their cultivation or their means, the two ladies on the sparring ring seemed to be on the same level. He couldn't say for sure who would win either. Liu Changyang nodded in agreement. Then, he suddenly frowned. That lady who abruptly appeared has a strong foundation, but why are her battle techniques so weak? All of the moves she has used were at intermediate tier mortal or so. If her battle techniques were slightly more advanced, she might have won already. Indeed. Zhao Wuxing was also perplexed by the sight. These two beautiful ladies had both reached Pishua realm. As long as they wished, they could easily access the high-tier or even pinnacle mortal battle techniques. To still be using intermediate-tier mortal at her cultivation realm, that was indeed a little lacking. If not for the frosty aura in her body limiting the other party's movements, rendering Mu Xueqing unable to gain on her, she would have already lost. This isn't good. Xianxia and the others could also see the problem. Zhao Yue's pure yin body granted her a huge advantage against cultivators of the same cultivation realm. However, as the battle techniques she knew were still limited to the level of Xianxia Kingdom, there was still a huge distance between both parties. More importantly, it had only been 2 months since Zhao Yue advanced from Fighter 1 Danjushi realm to Pishua realm. The rapid rise in her cultivation caused her to lack actual combat experience. On the other hand, as the little demoness who had caused innumerable storms in Qianwu Academy, Mu Xueqing had plenty of battle experience. Lacking battle techniques and battle experience. If not for her overwhelmingly powerful physical constitution and her powerful Xianxia, she would have already lost by now. Don't panic. Even though Zhao Yue is lacking in practical battle experience, it isn't that easy for the other party to triumph over her. Liu Yang said. Back then, Zhao Yue's physical constitution could even suppress Lu Xun Laosha. No matter how powerful this lady was, could she be stronger than Lu Xun? Don't worry. Once she gets used to the tempo of the battle, it will just be a matter of time before she defeats the other party. Zhao Yue's disadvantage was due to her lacking battle experience. As the battle continued on, Zhao Yue would slowly get used to the flow of the fight, and by then, it wouldn't be difficult for her to defeat the other party. Damn it! Since the crowd below was able to realize this, naturally Mu Xueqing could notice it as well, and her face steeled. Even though she wasn't the strongest female in her age group in Qianwu Kingdom, she wasn't too far from it. She thought that it should have been easy for her to teach a lass younger than her a lesson, but never in her dreams did she expect for the other party to be this formidable. When did such an incredible freshman appear in Qianwu Academy? If this continues to drag on, given how condensed her Xianxia is, I will surely lose. I have no choice but to use that technique. Mu Xueqing gritted her teeth, and a ferocious glint appeared in her eyes. Even though the other party was in a disadvantageous position at first, as time went by, she found the tables being slowly turned on her. In the end, her cultivation was forcefully pulled by pills, so her Xianxia was still a little thin. HMPH. Harumphing lightly, Mu Xueqing frowned. Her aura suddenly surged, and she released a forceful punch. It's Apothecary Mu's fallen flower fist. A grim look appeared on Zhao Wuxing's face. Fallen flower fist. Liu Changyang turned to Zhao Wuxing and asked. Indeed. It's a high-tier phantom battle technique. It's said that when Apothecary Mu reached Xianxia realm, in remembrance of his dead wife, he created this technique. There is a total of 3 moves to this technique, and every single one has overwhelming strength. Even Mo Hongyi was filled with praises for it. Zhao Wuxing stared at the lady on stage and commented, to think that Apothecary Mu would pass this technique on to his daughter and that she would have already mastered the first move. High-tier phantom battle technique? Techniques of such level are rare even in the capital. The other lady Mu Xueqing is facing is in trouble. Amazed, Liu Changyang nodded his head. Even in Qianwu Kingdom, a high-tier phantom battle technique was considered to be top-notch. On top of that, the other lady was lacking in good battle techniques, making it difficult for her to withstand this move. As they expected, facing the savage pressure from the other party, Zhao Yue's face warped in shock. I have to go all out. Gritting her silver teeth, she knew that she would definitely fall in defeat if she were to continue executing normal moves. Thus, with a bellow, she pumped her Xianxia furiously through her veins. She was putting her all into this single move. Peng! The fallen flower fist met her palm.
Deng 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 deng.
The duo's faces reddened, and they retreated 7 to 8 steps consecutively before fresh blood spurted from their mouths. It was a draw. Zhao Yue. Senior. Zheng Yang and Meng Dao dashed up to the stage. Seems like I have underestimated you. It is a draw today, but do you dare to fight against me 3 days from now? Flinging her arms, Mu Xueqing pushed Meng Dao and the others aside before glaring at Zhao Yue coldly. So be it. If you lose at that time, you have to apologize. Zhao Yue stared back at her as well. Apologize? I only said that Xianxia isn't good at teaching. What business of it is yours? At this, Mu Xueqing suddenly realized something and she froze. It can't be that. You all are Xianxia's students. That's right. He is our teacher. Your action of insulting him is equivalent to insulting all of us. Zhao Yue replied. I see. Finally understanding the reason why the other party was so furious as to challenge her to a duel, Mu Xueqing shook her head. I am also filled with respect for Xianxia. Just that. I am being objective here. In terms of teaching, I can guarantee that our Liu Laoxia is definitely superior to your Xianxia. Liu Laoxia? I've never heard of him. Zhao Yue shook her head. Then, with a proud look, she declared, our Zhong Laoxia is definitely the best in teaching. No one is able to match up to him. You. Mu Xueqing gritted her teeth. Since none of us is willing to concede, then let our fists do the talking. Let's meet again 3 days from now on, and whoever loses has to admit that their teacher is inferior to the other party's teacher. Do you dare to accept my challenge? Why wouldn't I dare to accept your challenge? Zhao Yue nodded. Fine, it's a deal then. Let's go. Seeing that the other party had agreed to it, Mu Xueqing flung her arms, turned around and left. It hadn't been long since she came into contact with Liu Laoxia, but she felt grateful to the other party for solving the trauma in the body and raising her cultivation. Given that a student of Xianxia was challenging his prestige, she felt a need to guard his honor. She wanted to let people know that even though Liu Laoxia wasn't a master teacher, he was in no way inferior to a master teacher. Let's go. Zhao Yue also left with Wang Ying and the others. These few people are Xianxia's students. This is a huge affair. I've heard of Xianxia. He's the genius who broke all of genius Mo Hongyi's records, taking over his position as the #1 genius of Qianwu Kingdom. No wonder that lady was so incredible. She is his student. Upon learning that Zhao Yue and the others were Xianxia's students, the crowd below broke into a commotion. Those students who harbored ideas on Zhao Yue immediately vanquished all of their thoughts. Master teacher Zhongxian was a rising figure in the city, and many influential powers were eager to build a connection with him. Laying hands on his students was no different than suicide. Right, isn't Mu Xueqing's teacher by Fan Laoshi? Who is Liu Laoshi? You still don't know about it? Bai Fang Laoshi has already left the academy, and this Liu Laoshi is a teacher who was just recruited today. Just recruited today. That's right. I was in charge of attending to the interviewees, so I personally saw the scene back then. That Liu Laoshi is indeed a capable teacher. The student recounted the events during the public recruitment. With a single word, he fixed a student's aversion to studying, and with a beating, he fixed a student's violent tendencies. You must be joking. There's actually such a person in the world. After hearing those words, the crowd was dumbfounded. They couldn't help but doubt that the other party was lying to them. It's true. The student said indignantly. You all know Mu Xueqing's personality as well. If it's not true, how could she be willing to fight with another person for him when she has only come into contact with him for such a short period of time? Now that you speak of it, I suddenly thought of something. When I met the students in their class this morning, their cultivation didn't seem to be that high yet. How in the world was all of their cultivation raised in just a few hours? Could this really be due to Liu Laoshi's guidance? For him to be so formidable, who in the world is this Liu Laoshi? The more the crowd discussed, the more curious they were about Mu Xueqing's new teacher. Achoo! After leaving the classroom, just as Zhong Xian was walking on a pavement, he suddenly sneezed. Perplexed, he rubbed his nose. What's wrong? Did I catch a cold? Chapter 330. Physician Guild. Not long after Mu Xueqing and the others stepped out of the classroom, Zhong Xian left as well. To raise Lu Chong's cultivation in the shortest time possible, he had to purchase sufficient medicinal herbs to concoct the poison. It was impossible for him to obtain these herbs just by waiting in the academy. There are only two sources where one can obtain medicinal herbs: the Herb Kings and the Physician Guild. Zhong Xian contemplated as he proceeded forward. Herb Kings referred to wholesaler of medicinal herbs, and the great Herb King of the Red Lotus City was the largest wholesaler in the 13 surrounding kingdoms. If Qianwu Royal City has a Herb King, Bai Chan and the others wouldn't have to go through so much effort to travel to Red Lotus City to purchase medicine. I better head to the Physician Guild. Given how Bai Chan and the other physicians traveled all the way to Red Lotus City to purchase medicinal herbs, it was clear that there was no Herb King in Qianwu Royal City. Even if there was, it was unlikely for him to have a wide variety of herbs. Since that was the case, Zhong Xian decided to head for the Physician Guild straight. The Apothecary Guild and the Physician Guild both expended huge quantities of herbs on a daily basis. The pills the former forged were mostly related to raising one's cultivation, and thus, the medicinal herbs they possessed were mostly tonics and spirit medicinal herbs. On the other hand, the latter concocted medicine with the purpose of saving and treating others, and poisonous herbs frequently appeared in their prescriptions. Therefore, it was more likely that latter would possess the poisonous herbs that Zhong Xian was looking for. After asking around in the academy, Zhong Xian soon found out where the Physician Guild was located. It wasn't too far from Qianwu Academy, and he arrived at its doorstep within an hour. The Physician Guild wasn't as grand as the Master Teacher Pavilion, but still, it was larger and more imposing than the Painter Guild. Upon walking into the lounge, Zhong Xian immediately saw a group of people lining up neatly within. There were apprentices seated at the front diagnosing the patient. It was quite similar to the hospitals in his previous life. Walking around the crowd, Zhong Xian walked up to the reception, and a young lady in her 20s walked up to welcome him with a sweet smile. May I know what Gongzi hopes to inquire? I wish to buy some medicinal herbs. Zhong Xian said. You wish to buy some herbs? The lady hesitated for a moment before asking politely, can you show me your prescription? Prescription? He was just here to buy medicinal herbs, so how could he possibly have something like that? You can only buy medicinal herbs with a prescription. Seeing the confused look on the other party's face, the lady frowned. Where can I obtain a prescription? Zhong Xian asked. Physicians and apprentices have the right to issue a prescription. The lady looked at Zhong Xian with a bizarre gaze. However, apprentices can only issue prescriptions consisting of low-tier medicinal herbs. If you wish to purchase high-tier medicinal herbs, you will have to look for a physician. To dare to come up here to buy medicinal herbs when you don't even know where to get a prescription from. It is fortunate for you that my temper is good, otherwise you would have already been kicked out as a troublemaker. Oh, the medicinal herbs I want to buy can't be considered as high tier, but they are still quite rare. I will recite them for you, so can you tell me whether I should look for an apprentice or a physician to issue a prescription? Seeing the long queue before the apprentices and a longer one before the physicians, Xianxia decided to clarify everything properly before deciding on a course of action. He didn't want to leave in disappointment after lining up for several hours at the apprentice queue only to realize that the other party was unable to issue the prescription.
All right. The lady nodded.
I want to buy white angelica flower, crimson-edged leaf, wolf venom grass. After pondering for a moment, Xianxia listed out over a dozen medicinal herbs. Before he could finish his words, the lady's eyes widened into large circles. Alarmed, she took a step back and knocked a bronze gong. Guards, someone is causing trouble.
Xianxia.
Hualala. A few armored guards rushed over.
Why Xiaojie, what's wrong?
The guard leader was a tall and bulky man. With a physique as though a steel tower, his presence exerted a huge pressure on those around him.
Tongxian realm expert.
That man is causing trouble. Receptionist Ru pointed.
Cough cough.
Xianxia didn't expect that he would be taken for a troublemaker when he only intended to purchase medicine. Shaking his head, he said, I am a teacher of Qianwu Academy. I am really here to buy medicinal herbs. After which, he flashed an emblem indicating his identity as a teacher. He didn't want to be thrown out from the guild despite having only entered a moment ago. Oh, so it's Liu Laoxia. Pardon our disrespect. After taking a glance at the emblem, the guard leader clasped his fist. He then turned to Ru and asked doubtfully, what is going on? Qianwu Academy was known as the sacred land for cultivators, and the teachers possessed immense prestige in the capital. No one dared to look down on them. Since the other party was a teacher, it was unlikely that he would cause trouble here given his esteemed standing. Despite not having a prescription, he said that he wanted to buy prohibited medicinal herbs like white angelica flower, crimson-edged leaf, and wolf venom grass. If this isn't causing trouble, what else is? Not expecting that this ignorant fellow to be a teacher of Qianwu Academy, Ru was taken aback for a moment. However, she soon recovered and explained the situation. Buying prohibited medicinal herbs. After hearing the reason, the guard leader turned to Xianxia. Liu Laoxia, medicinal herbs like the wolf venom grass possess lethal poison, and thus, the guild deems them as prohibited herbs. Even with a prescription, we aren't allowed to sell them to you. Unless a physician vouches for you personally, otherwise it will be impossible to purchase those herbs. I'm unable to purchase those herbs even with a prescription.
Yes.
These prohibited medicinal herbs possess lethal poison, and in order to prevent people from abusing these medicinal herbs to conduct vile deeds, the guild decided to impose strict rules on their distribution. I seek your understanding on this matter. The guard clasped his fist and explained respectfully. If not for the fact that the other party was a teacher of Qianwu Academy, he would have thought that he was here to cause trouble as well. Despite knowing nothing at all, to head to the guild to purchase prohibited medicinal herbs. He sure was brazen. Oh.
Xianxia nodded.
He could understand the rationale behind their actions. In his previous life, some of the more potent medicine, such as sleeping pills, weren't available to the general public even with a prescription. They were simply trying to prevent widespread use of these lethal medicinal herbs, which could potentially cause unrest in the city. Since Liu Laoxia understands this matter, I have to ask you to leave and not make things difficult for us. Seeing that the other party comprehended their plight, the guard leader continued. However, before he could finish his words, the young man before him knitted his eyebrows tightly together. With a helpless expression, the other party shook his head. Seems like I have to try taking the physician examination then. Sigh, to think that even purchasing medicinal herbs would be such a hassle. Taking the physician examination. Purchasing medicinal herbs would be such a hassle? Upon hearing those words, Ru and the guards nearly keeled over. Physician was one of the higher-ranked occupations of the upper 9 paths. As such, the difficulty of the examination was extraordinary. Despite not even being an apprentice, not to mention how you didn't even know that a prescription was required to purchase medicinal herbs, how could you boast so arrogantly that you are going to take the physician examination? Furthermore, for you to do so just to purchase medicinal herbs. Brother, will you die if you act a little humbler? Ru's complexion immediately turned awful. She had seen many braggarts before, but she had never seen one who was capable of bragging to the stars. Even if you don't know that a prescription is required to purchase medicinal herbs, you should at least know that taking the physician examination requires an in-depth knowledge of medicinal herbs. To not even know that the white angelica flower, crimson-edged leaf, and wolf venom grass are prohibited medicinal herbs, and you still wish to take the physician examination? You must be joking. Liu Laoxia, the physician examination isn't as easy as you think. The guard leader was infuriated by how lightly the other party was taking the occupation, but in consideration of his identity as a teacher of Qianwu Academy, he suppressed his anger and tried to explain the matter to him. I understand. How can becoming a member of an occupation of the upper 9 paths be easy?
Zhong Xian nodded.
Hearing the other party's words, the guard leader nodded, thinking that the other party had given up on the idea. However, upon hearing the words that followed behind it, he staggered and nearly spurted blood. The young man looked at him with a serious face and asked, "So, may I know where the physician examination is held?" To not even know where the physician examination is held, and you still want to take the examination? It's at the physician hall over there. The guard leader was seething with rage, but he still managed to hold himself back. Pointing to the front, he replied with a trembling voice. Looking toward where the other party's finger was pointed, Zhong Xian saw a huge hall, and a plaque placed on top of the entrance that wrote Physician Hall.
All right, thank you.
May I trouble you to prepare the medicinal herbs that I just spoke of? I will come and claim them after I'm done with the physician examination. Upon knowing the location, Zhong Xian instructed the receptionist, Ru, before heading over. Braggart. Upon seeing the other party leave, Ru could no longer hold herself back and harumphed with clear disdain in her voice. She was already absolutely certain that this fellow was here to wreak havoc. Otherwise, who would attempt the physician examination despite knowing nothing at all? He does seem somewhat unreliable. Given the prestige associated with being a physician, how can it possible for anyone to pass the examination that easily? The guard leader shook his head as well. It is one thing if you have studied the way of medicine before, but to not even know where the physician examination is held and that a prescription is required to purchase medicinal herbs, it can't be clearer to see that you are a newbie. And yet, you still want to take the examination. Aren't you underestimating this occupation a little way too much? That may not necessarily be so. I recall that there's a person in our guild who managed to pass the 1-star physician examination despite not being an apprentice. A guard spoke up. Oh, you're speaking of 3-star physician Mu Hong? He is an exception. Having come from a lineage of physicians, he has been learning the way of medicine since young. He possesses true ability, that's why he's able to pass the 1-star physician examination straight. The guard leader said. The other party was right. There was indeed an exception in the guild. It was the famous physician Mu Hong. Even though physician Mu Hong had never taken any examination prior to passing his 1-star physician examination such that he wasn't even an apprentice then, he had been accompanying his father on diagnosis and treatment runs and he was already famous by then. He is just an arrogant lad. How can he be compared to physician Mu Hong?
Ru harumphed coldly.
Physician Mu Hong had begun learning way of medicine from young, and by the age of 13, he was already treating patients by himself. Even though he had never taken the examination prior to that, he practically grew up in the physician guild and he was well aware of everything here. On the other hand, that fellow clearly knew nothing at all. Given the foolish and ignorant look on his face, and how he didn't even know of the prohibited medicinal herbs, how could the two of them possibly be the same? But no matter what, the other party is a teacher of Qianwu Academy. I don't think that he will not care for his reputation like that. The guard leader said. Ru fell speechless. The standing of a teacher was beneath that of a physician, but due to their relationship with master teachers, it was an esteemed occupation as well. As an official teacher of Qianwu Academy, it was unlikely for him to abandon his pride to cause trouble at the Physician Guild. He might really possess true ability. Indeed, it's possible that he might, like Physician Mu Hong, pass the one-star physician examination straight and amaze everyone. The two guards held deep respect for teachers. Now that you speak of it, it isn't entirely impossible. Hearing the analysis of the others, Ru hesitated for a moment before nodding her head. Just as she was about to continue speaking, the young man who just left a moment ago returned and asked sheepishly, "May I know, what procedures are there to the physician examination? Also, what books do I have to read?"
Ru. The guards.
Thank you for listening to PandaAudioBooks. If you love what you hear and want to support my work, check out the PayPal link in the description. Every bit helps. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notifications bell to stay updated with all our latest audiobook chapters.
We'll see you in the next one.